Is Chris ready?
Oh, Chris is ready? Okay.
Okay. I'd like to call our October meeting to order. I am distanced from everyone and am only removing my mask so that I can more clearly be heard. People watching us through our televised portion say that we get pretty mumbled. I appreciate all of you coming this evening, and I appreciate the cooperation, and these are difficult times for all of us and confusing times for all of us. So thank you all for coming and complying with all that we expect. Will you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're ready for our superintendent comments. Dr. Siegfried, pass that to you.
Thank you, Dr. Towers. Chris, can you hear me all right? Yes? Okay. Welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. We are glad you have joined us. Dr. Brazil is not in attendance tonight because he is in Milwaukee receiving the International Eagle Award. Congratulations to Charles. We can give him a hand. We also have another member of our CO team member that went to a national conference and received a national award as well, and that's Dr. Rodney Lewis. Congratulations to Dr. Lewis. Both high schools had successful homecomings. Both had a pep rally or a pep assembly, a parade, and an outside dance. So we were thrilled that we were back to regular traditions and events that pretty much were memory makers and for our students and staff and families. And the outdoor events at both schools were outstanding, safe, had a lot of fun. But the one that had a little bit of a different, unique atmosphere was at St. Charles High on that lawn, that front lawn. Some of you probably drove by, but you can clap for that. And live band, the whole thing, so it was pretty neat to see. Both schools did a great job, but we're just happy that our homecomings were back this year. Congratulations to SCW alum and author Joseph Luckett. Mr. Luckett was awarded a key to the city this past Monday night, so we're very excited for him and well-deserved. You can give Mr. Luckett a hand. And our very own principal, Dr. Daryl Diggs at Hardin Middle School, was featured on KSCK this past Tuesday for his work with Black Males in Education St. Louis. And their app, EDU Openings, is the name of the app, which helps pair job seekers with open positions in education. And this is pretty awesome, too. We can clap for that, too. Fall sports activity seasons are actually kind of winding down a little bit in terms of districts. Bands have been great success. Actually, we have the leader of one of our bands with us tonight, correct? You can clap for that. I thought, while you're here, I'll say I thought the band sounded great at the pep assembly. It was awesome to have live band back playing in our gym, so that was awesome. But the fall sports and activity season, again, is kind of not coming to a close, but we're getting into district time. But the Warriors and the Pirates, that's my favorite time when they kind of square off. So we had volleyball and soccer this past Tuesday night, and then don't forget, tomorrow night, St. Charles High Field, Warriors versus Pirates, and it's the 100th. We can clap again. They're celebrating 100 years of Pirate football, which is pretty cool. And I think at least one of our board members was kind of involved with that, right? Through the years? I'm kidding. Mike Thorne, obviously.
He was there 100 years ago.
100 years ago?
I believe he was one of them.
It's going to be a pretty neat night for the SCSD. Our latest podcast episode was released a few weeks ago. It featured Mark Sigma. I think we know who Mark is. And he's with We Love St. Charles. I hope you had a chance to listen. And I think our next one, okay, we're going to clap again. And I think our next one is scheduled for in a week or two, so we're excited about that. Don't forget, parent-teacher conferences are coming up. We hope every parent or guardian has a chance to have an opportunity to teach us. Primarily, our parent-teacher conferences will be virtual. There is an in-person option if you need that, but we're going to try to make sure. We felt like last year we went to virtual, obviously because of the pandemic, and it just seemed to work better for parents, so we're pretty much on virtual with that. And then tonight, we worked really hard and prepared for this meeting tonight. We have several important presentations. The first one's on COVID update and review, and we're going to really have as we always do, we're going to show data. We're going to have a really good balanced discussion tonight to make our decisions moving forward. We have an alternative education program update. We have benefit recommendations, thanks to Eric for being with us tonight. And then also we have construction and bond project updates that we're going to get from our very own Josh Schaefer, so that's exciting. Paraprofessional salary schedule change with Dr. Lewis. We have a homeless program evaluation review with Julie McClard, and then the gifted program tonight with the CNI team, and also the district financial review tonight with Miss Lavinia Draper's with us tonight. So a lot of great things tonight, so hopefully you'll stay with us. And then I just want to encourage all of us, just keep going. Keep going strong. Let's continue to work together. We always talk about SESD United, SESD Best. Let's continue to do our best so we can reach, teach, and empower all students to do their best together. So that's all I've got. Thank you, Dr. Towers.
Thank you. This district's doing a lot. That was great. Item 3.04, do we have any board communications? We have none. Item 3.05, audience comments. We have quite a few, but Dr. Malone, if you'd read our...
I will, as soon as I get unstuck from my earring. So public participation at board meetings, all regular and special meetings of the board shall be open to the public. Since the board desires to be a good listener and be responsive to the community, persons desiring to address the board may do so during the time so allotted on the agenda and according to established procedures. During the audience portion of each board meeting, patrons are invited by the president to speak for or against any proposal on the tentative agenda on any other school concern. The individual is asked to identify him or herself, limit comments to a few minutes, and avoid discussing personalities. The president reserves the right to limit the number of presentations and/or length of comments. At the discretion of the president, patrons may be recognized at other times during the board meeting. The board is very interested in audience comments. According to board policy, members cannot respond during the actual meeting. The board will listen to and research all audience comments. If necessary, additional follow-up will occur through district administrators.
We have quite a few in-person comments, but we also have opportunities for our citizens to send in through email, and I think
We got one.
yeah, we have one.
So this one here, my name is Edgar Borehole, and I'm a sophomore at St. Charles West. I am writing to the board today asking you to reconsider the mask requirement for all students K through 12. Many studies have been done on the effectiveness of wearing masks to prevent getting sick as far back as 2014. In a May 2017 study done by K.M. Shakya, published on the NIH.gov site, showed that the virus was too small, specifically 0.125 microns, for a cloth mask to be effective. Masks are uncomfortable and can cause side effects. Some known side effects of long-term use include high levels of CO2 after only 1 hour of wearing a mask, which can cause headaches, difficulty concentrating, and drowsiness. Skin reactions and acne, lower blood oxygen levels, yeast, candida, and bacterial infections in the mouth and throat. Some non-medical side effects can include, for younger kids, it can affect how they grow emotionally and intellectually. Mental health issues, such as anxiety, claustrophobia, and distress. For special needs students who are deaf, autistic, like myself, or developmentally delayed, there are difficulties in communication, recognizing people, and reading social clues from facial expressions. In general, when people are wearing masks, it makes it harder to understand teachers when they talk. Students who wear glasses have to clear them off often because they fog up and the masks are hot and sweaty. As of Tuesday, October 12th, on the St. Charles County COVID dashboard, the number of quarantines, deaths, and cases are down everywhere. In our school district, cases are down 11%, quarantines are down 13%, and there has been one death in the past month. Also, Wentzville, Fort Zumwalt, and Francis Howell school districts have changed their policies to make policy wearing an option for students. Thank you for taking the time to read my concerns, and I would appreciate the board members to consider this information as they make their decision.
Okay. Thank you, Edgar. And our first in-person comment is from Lauren Mertz.
Good evening. I'm Lauren Mertz, the reading specialist at Lincoln Elementary School, and I'm the president of our local chapter of the Missouri State Teachers Association. And recently I've had the opportunity to serve on just a few of the many committees that are in our district. And it's been a pleasure to serve on those and to be able to communicate with our members. So thank you all for your dedication and your work to help us as we do our jobs each day. And I'd like to say a personal thank you to all of our staff and our teachers that are working so hard day in and day out. And I just want to let you know that many of our district staff feel very overwhelmed, kind of like the point that you feel right before spring break. But unfortunately, it's like October 14th. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you're making the very difficult decisions that you make each time regarding all the things that are coming up, especially the benefits recommendations you're seeing tonight, and the support salary recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Caleb Mertz.
Good evening. I'm Caleb Mertz, a junior at St. Charles High School. And thank you for allowing me to come to you again to discuss our school's mask mandate policy. Now this year, I'm in AP Government and Politics. We have been studying and discussing our nation's founding documents, including the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution, just to name a couple. Now, I'm learning a lot about the foundational principles of our nation. And as Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, you are teaching me and my fellow students in class that our nation, the greatest democracy in the world, was founded on those three rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But these mask mandates show that you are going against what you teach. Now, you may be asking, how are these mask mandates impending on your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness? Well, let me tell you. First off, liberty. The Oxford Dictionary defines liberty as the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority over one's life or behavior. Now, ever since kindergarten, we've been taught that we have the freedom from oppressive restrictions, that we can become whatever we want, regardless of what anyone says. But these mask mandates are in direct opposition of that basic definition of liberty. I don't have the choice to wear a cloth over my face or not. I don't have the ability to make a decision for myself. You guys say we can become whatever we want, but these mask mandates are teaching me that I can't think for myself and I can't make my own decisions. Secondly, the pursuit of happiness. Now, I, along with hopefully all of you, am most happy when I can see the smiles of my friends in the classroom. I'm happiest when I can see them laughing at my jokes that I tell. I'm happy when I can help my friends if they're feeling down. But with masks, I can't see their smiles. I can't tell if they're having a bad day. I can't see those subtle little changes in their facial expressions. It's just simply harder to connect with them. Finally, that brings me to life. My liberty and my pursuit of happiness is my life. I can't live my best life without being able to make my decisions. I can't live my life not knowing how other people are feeling. And both of these are happening because of the masks that you guys force us to wear day in and day out. If those three things, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, aren't there, then I can't be the best student that I can be. I cannot have the best year of my academic career. I cannot make the best memories that will last me for ages. And I cannot be the best person that I can be. Now, I know your guys' goal is for this year to be the best year ever. But with mask mandates, it simply cannot happen. Help me pursue my life, my liberty, and my happiness by simply removing the mask mandates. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Caleb. Teresa Litzen. Thank you.
Hi, I'm talking as a parent and a taxpayer. I have a daughter who goes to St. Charles High, a senior, and she absolutely loves school. She talks about it like about a half an hour every night at dinner, what she's learned. So I want to thank you all for helping to make St. Charles School District a success. Your desire to help students succeed has benefited my daughter, who is a senior already. My daughter and I pray every morning for all the people in positions of authority over us, that God would give them wisdom and boldness to do right. And I'm going to say a little prayer here. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of community. Help us to do right by the students that you have given us to instruct. Help us to walk in truth. Help us to do right by the taxpayers and make fiscally sound decisions as well. And our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory. Amen. That's it.
Thank you, Teresa. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your comments. We do need to keep, and I appreciate your thoughts and prayers for our district. But if you speak with us next month, I hope you do, let's keep it as a private prayer for you. Thank you. Okay, Brendan Kern.
Good evening, members of St. Charles Board of Education and Community. My name is Brendan Kearns. I'm the president of the St. Charles Education Association, the bargaining local for classified and certified employees. As our semester continues, teachers and nurses are working hard to ensure that all our students have their best year ever. To do this, we need to make sure all our students and staff continue to have a safe in-person learning environment. Once again, the board will consider our mask mandate. And with COVID numbers thankfully on the decline, you may consider changing our masking requirements. This week, SCEA surveyed our members to gauge their feelings about how masking should be done in the district and how comfortable they would feel working in a building without a mask mandate. 68% of teachers and nurses surveyed favored keeping the mask mandate in place. 59% of teachers and nurses said they would be uncomfortable in a maskless building, with 35% of those saying they would feel extremely uncomfortable. Among the reasons cited most frequently were the success of our current masking protocols, as well as the lack of vaccines for students under 12. Among feedback I received thanks the board and central office administrators' willingness to keep the safety of utmost importance. With this and other important decisions to weigh tonight, we hope the board will weigh these decisions carefully. As an aside, I'm excited for you to have you hear about the great work the Alternative Ed Committee has been doing to create a revamped Success Campus that will build on the already terrific program the building runs. Thank you all for everything you do for us, and have a good evening.
I'm muted. Yeah. I was just asking Dr. Seifert, but Brendan, the survey with the percentages, That's the total population of our entire district.
That is,
It's not broken down by K through 6, 7 through 12.
it is our group, SCEA's local members. Just the members.
And thank you, your membership. But in that membership, did you break down, were the teachers K through 6?
I can disaggregate that data if I can. I don't have it live right now that I could determine and have that belong to you. I will say that when I examined it, looking it over, it kind of ran the gamut of both elementary and secondary teachers and their range of feelings on it. So I couldn't say that looking at one group necessarily over the other said we need masks versus we need to get rid of masks. It was pretty much a mix going.
I thought I heard somewhere in there that their fear of, especially with children who are unable to be vaccinated. So then I thought, well, then that might be a factor that your group didn't look at. That, of course, K through 6 don't have
A
that.
lot of my K through 6 teachers specifically brought that back up. The kids not being able to be vaccinated yet was a big concern to them and wanting to keep the mask mandate in place.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
I do have a question on that, too. How many took that survey?
That survey was taken by 220 of our employees over, I gave it about 24 hours.
Just let it go.
Okay, thank you.
So the majority of our
Okay, thank you. Our next comment is from Craig Treadway.
He's the one that left.
Oh, sorry. Nathan Hodges.
Howdy, I thought y'all said you didn't go back and forth with members, and y'all were going back and forth with that.
At the discretion of the president.
Oh, all right. Anyway, I think his speech over there probably outdid mine. I don't have any prepared remarks or fancy pie graphs or anything like that. You know, I could go all Ross Perot on you, but judging by the Common Core math y'all teach, you might get a little confused by that. But the the parents should be the ones deciding whether or not the kids wear masks. It shouldn't be up to teachers, a school district, anybody other than the parents. If you're in high school, yeah, probably the kids can give some input themselves. But that is it. It shouldn't be up to anyone else besides them. The science is relatively clear. The masks don't do anything. And that's just what it ought to be. Even by your own threshold numbers, when you guys first came out with everything back in, I think, late August, we fell below those fake thresholds of when the masks should have been removed from the students in the first place. So even by your own numbers, the masks ought to be gone. That is all.
Lucy Richard. Rosie Epps.
Oh, she's here. I really had not planned to speak tonight, but I'm standing in the foyer again. I was thinking the meeting started at 7, but we got here in time, I would think, to find a seat. And let me introduce myself. I'm a St. Charles resident. I taught in the St. Charles School District for 20 years. I've been retired since '03. My kids went to the schools here, and I have a grandson right now, the one you just heard speak a while ago. So we really came to listen to him tonight, but we couldn't get in again. This is the second time. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was maybe having these meetings in a different place that we can have more room, or I really think we could still socially distance and have a few more seats in here. But that was the first thing that inspired me to come and say something. The other thing is the mask mandate. I am so glad I am not teaching now. If I were in a classroom trying to address my students, trying to listen to them, I don't know, I don't think I could do it. It interferes with my hearing for one thing, although I am getting old and harder of hearing, but I think it's detrimental to the kids and to their learning. So I do appreciate you guys and all the time that you give, and we've loved, the school district loved St. Charles, but we just feel like our kids are hurting right now.
Thank you, Rosie. All right, that's our audience comment portion. As we move into the business portion of our meeting and we move ahead with our agenda, this might be a time if some of you need to leave and go into other things you want to have done. That might be a chance for you to do that. I'm going to ask us to amend in item 3.06, amend to adopt our agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're going to take just maybe a 5-minute break if some of you want to get up and make a run for it. This is it.
Does that include us?
Thank you all for staying. We're ready for item 4.01, approval of the consent agenda. For efficiency, the school board utilizes a consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda are routine in nature, are among the many decisions that the board has already determined are in the domain of the administration. Item 4.02, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent agenda?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Item 4.03, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I went on through. I'm sorry. We've approved the consent agenda. Yeah, item 6.01, we have a policy reading. This is our second time at looking at this policy. Policy GBCBB. Is there any more discussion on that one? Good. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item 6.02 is our COVID update, and we have a presentation. Dr. Seifert, are you doing a
do.
presentation?
Chris has already got it going for me. Good. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the first 3 or 4 slides, but obviously the why, again, to keep our students, staff safe, and keep our students and staff in school as normal as possible. So that is our why. Chris, go to 6, please. I just want to give you guys an update on our wording that we put in place from our COVID task force this summer. And I want to make sure that, and it's not policy, it's just practice, and so it's part of our plan. But as we start talking about or discussing an optional plan for kids and for staff, I wanted to make sure that I felt like, as I've seen other districts go to the optional plan and kind of what's happening other places, this summer when we didn't really know how everything was going to look, we did put some wording in there that if we were going to an optional setting at any point, that we would have all our staff would show vaccination proof in order to do so. And all I'm saying is the other school districts that have gone to this optional, they're not forcing their staff to tell us that they're vaccinated, and we're not going to a mandated vaccination at this point as well. So to my point is, if we go to an optional setting in that building or in that setting, whatever grade level it is, we would be optional for everybody without showing proof. Just because that's pretty much what's happening everywhere else. And you have modifications. We'll talk about the modification protocols that keep kids in school and staff in school. So I just want to make sure that people saw that wording from this summer, and I believe that we're not going to be showing proof at this point. Questions on that? Now, to say that, we've also talked this summer at task force about how we probably wanted to be consistent about what our staff would be doing K through 12. However, as we've seen other districts go to K through 6 versus 7 through 12 and different things, my thought would be, and again, you all can approve it and vote on it, but if we go to an optional, let's say if we go optional 7 through 12, or we go optional 9 through 12, and we stay K6 mandated, whatever building you're in, whatever grade level is what you would follow. And I don't mean to have things different for our staff, but I think at this time and if we're doing something different in each school, I think we have to allow our staff to be able to do that as well. Okay? That's my thoughts. Any thoughts from you all with that? Okay, Chris, go to 8. So this is the letter, this is part of this is not the letter, but this is the new quarantine that came out a couple weeks ago that I sent a letter and email to our staff as well to our parents that basically talks about a majority of the school districts that have an optional setting as using this modified, because obviously a lot of kids were being kept home. And so if we go to an optional setting, I would like to use this modified quarantine. And so what the district, it's from the state level, and then our local health department has agreed to this. I know there's a lot of conversations and questions about who has the jurisdiction. You guys obviously will vote on it, but I do think our health department has something to say and something good to say. And Sarah Evers, our acting health director does a great job, and I do partner with her and talk to her quite a bit, talked to her on the phone today. So this new modified quarantine says basically that if a child, in an optional setting, if a staff or student has a mask on, he or she is basically able to stay in school even if they're exposed. Even if the person who has a COVID positive case didn't have a mask on, if I have a mask on, I'm pretty much I have my own destiny in my hands in terms of I can come to school for 14 days, within those 14 days, and I can wear a mask. However, this quarantine modified and all the modified, anything that has to do with modification does not include sports and activities and games. We have to be careful of that. I'll talk about that later, okay? Next slide. Okay, so I don't mean to pinpoint districts and things. I try to stay away from that, but I think we just have to be, I just want you to know, obviously I'm balanced in this approach. I'm trying to give you all the information. So I want you to know that there has been a modified version of the modification. So it gets confusing, but we do have a district in our county who has gone above or below, I guess, of what the modification is from the health department, and they're pretty much doing their own thing at this point. Now, I'll talk about what the state just came out with in a little bit as well, but basically what they're doing in one of these county school districts in our county is it doesn't matter if either one is masked up, you can still come to school, but you have to mask up, and there's some testing involved with that as well, I believe, but again, no school activities in Misha, so they take it even further. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not saying it's wrong, bad, or good for anybody else, but I'm not asking for that to happen, or I would not recommend that to happen if we go to optional setting. Okay? Okay, let's go to numbers. Thank you. So this is, and we just updated these as of like probably an hour or two ago. So the first presentation was put in our board docs on Friday because that's when they're due. And unfortunately, from Friday till now, we've changed. We're a little worse for the weary, nothing horrible, but that just shows you how much it changes. So right now, we have 5 active confirmed staff cases. We have 11 active student cases, but remember, you have to add the active probable to it. So that right now, we have 14 cases in the district. Now, 14 versus 4,800 kids is pretty darn good. But as of Friday, it was like 3 or 4, which is really good. So it gives you, I just want to make sure everybody sees the numbers. We're not hiding the numbers from everybody. We always update you. Right now, we have 19 students currently in full quarantine. And we're using the modified quarantine quite a bit as well. As you see, that cumulative number is about 225 because we are staying with that 0 to 3 range, even if the mask to mask. That the health department has told us that is a modified. And that's where we get in a little bit of a sticky wicket with families and parents. And quite honestly, I don't blame them for being upset, but we are wearing masks. We are doing what we're supposed to be doing, or at least we're following guidelines. And we still have kids that have to be on the modified, meaning that they can't be in the band, they can't for that period of time. And quite honestly, we had a couple kids get exposed right before homecoming and had a missed homecoming. And it's sad. It's sad, but we're following the right guidelines at this point. So that kind of gives you a snapshot of what the numbers look like. Okay, next slide, please. Now, here's the positivity rate. We've been talking about this. So we've been talking about 10% or higher. We definitely think we probably should be unmasked. We've talked about 5 to 9, or basically 5.9, or anything above 5, between 5 and 9 is what we would start talking about, what we would talk about in terms of what a optional setting would be. I got some clarification from the health director, and I told her I would not quote her. But I also know, and I've talked to some of our regional superintendents in the St. Charles County area as well, and they really try to split that, and splitting hairs a little bit, but that substantial versus that moderate, it's a big deal, and we're kind of splitting that right now. You'll see we're at 8.2 today. On Friday, we were at 7.4, so we're just in that substantial / moderate, and I just quite asked our acting health director today, what are we talking about in terms of being comfortable, being optional, and the thought would be more in that moderate risk, 7 and below, so 7.9 and below. So we're at 8.2, so we're right there. We were at 7.4 on Friday, and it changes. If you watch this, it just changes it constantly, it seems like. So we're right there, in that conversation. And then, of course, the transmission rate is 0.94. Anything below 1 is good. Okay? And we're running, Chris, we're running county and cities running pretty tight. Sometimes we're a little bit lower than in the county. And I'll tell you, if you look at the dashboard at the health department, the other districts, obviously 8.29, the other districts who are on optionals, they have similar numbers at this point. So again, I'm being balanced. I'm showing you everything we've got to show you in terms of what it looks like. So we're kind of getting in that area of talking about an optional setting. So Chris, you want to go to the next slide? So the recommendation, I am not giving it a full recommendation. I will tell you if you want my opinion, I'll give it to you, but I'm not here to give you a full recommendation today. We have to go to an optional setting, but I do feel like we need to facilitate a balanced discussion, because I think we're getting close to looking at that. And we told the people who were here, we told our staff, we told our families that we would watch the numbers and we use that positivity rate, and we're getting to that point. So with that said, we want to facilitate a discussion tonight based on the question, is it time, is it appropriate, at this time, are we ready to move to the following scenario? And I put up there, we had 3 scenarios, and I put up the one that says, we would still be an expected mandated for grades K through 6. We'll talk about why in just a second. And then we'd be advised to wear masks, but that would be an optional setting for 7th through 12th grades. The other thing I slid in there today, because Julie was talking about it as well, and Julie McClard has done a great job. Ronnie does a great job with our numbers as well, so please join in the conversation if I missed something. But we certainly could do a 9 through 12 optional too, and keep 7 and 8 in masks as well if we think that. So here's some highlights, and then we'll have a discussion. So our data, our COVID numbers and our positivity rate is pretty good. It's been good, and the other districts are coming along too. So I want to say that, but we were really good Friday. I was feeling pretty good Friday. Saying that, there might be a justification for a change tonight. But also on the flip side, what the health director will tell you is we are kind of there, and some people might want to hear this, but she loves to talk about what we're doing, because we're doing exactly what we were, and it's not good or bad. We have gone with what the directives, or I should say guidelines, have been from CDC to our health director. So our numbers are good, but that's probably because of the mitigation strategies and things that we're doing. So that kind of balances each other out, not outweighs either one, but that balances it. Also, we have this new modified quarantine. I'm going to talk about some other stuff in just a second. We've got so many modified quarantines now that we do. It's just, it's like you have to have your own schooling just to figure all this out. Right, Julie? So we have so many modified quarantines now that we can pretty much, even in an optional setting, pretty much kids can still come to school. And that's what people have been fighting for a while in those other districts, because they had so many people out. We didn't, because we were following the directives. Now they've put so many modifications in place that it's almost becoming the point that I can't say, oh, the masks are keeping us in school, because there's so many modifications, to be honest with you. Now, saying that, here's a couple other things. Anything you see modified, for the most part, and I'll talk about one thing that kind of exempts from that. The problem with it is you go to an optional setting, you're going to be more and more, especially at the high school level, you're going to be more and more, reliant on the modifications to keep kids in school. And I'm looking at my band director, or my band leader, I'm looking at my sports as we go inside for indoor sports. I hate to see that now mask to mask is not going to keep, there's really going to be there for us to keep kids in school and keep our activities going. Now, saying that, I can't recall, and again, I told you I'll be balanced. I can't recall a varsity sports teams in our whole county that has had to be quarantined or stop playing a game, except for one of our games at West football got canceled, but it was because of the other team from a different county south of us. So I haven't seen a team have to quarantine, which is a good thing. That concerns me as we go within in the indoor season. So just keep that in mind. Now, saying all that, then basically I said with mask optional at the 7th to 12th grades, if we did that, or anytime we would do optional. No, 7 through 12 because of the vaccination. And remember, if you're vaccinated, and we've had this conversation before, we can debate if this is right or wrong, but if you're vaccinated, you're pretty much good to go. I mean, that's kind of how it is. So just keep this in mind. If you did go 7th through 12th grade or 9th through 12th grade, only exposed students during the school day who are unvaccinated, unmasked themselves, would not be able to attend school. So that's pretty good. Like I said, we're pretty much going to guarantee still kids can go to school. But again, the games and activities and the sports and the bands kind of make me nervous. Now, saying that, without a lot of fanfare, and I don't know if you saw this, but DHSS, which is the state level health department, and now MISHA, our Sports Activities State Sanctioned Activities Association, has aligned themselves with DHSS, and they just came out, again, without a lot of fanfare, and we're trying to figure out still what it looks like. I'm on the phone with the health director. Our health director is looking at it, and they haven't really said, hey, they're signing on to it, but it's pretty much going to be there for us to use. And they're coming out, and I told you it was coming, but they're coming out with a test to stay or a test to play, meaning if you're optional and a kiddo is in a modified setting, now there is going to be some testing that you can do to get back quicker. Now, I don't mean 7 days or something. I mean like right off the bat. Now, what we're finding out though is we would be able to do that because we're a Binax now, right? We do those tests. We're only few districts in this whole area that actually test kids and staff on a regular basis. Now, we're hoping to get more tests. We're a little low right now, but we test a lot of kids. So this testing, I'm talking like if you want to test to play, it's like every day they get tested. I don't know if we have the manpower to do that, or the staff power. Plus, I don't know what that looks like. We don't know what that looks like yet, but there is a test to stay. And I don't think we need to do a test to stay because we have so many modifications just to be in school. But to test to play, we certainly want to figure that out if we can use it, because I don't want to see our bands, our activities, our sports, I don't want to see them missing games this year. So there is a test to stay and test to play. And if you see any of that information, and as we get it and the health department starts looking at it, we can look at this some more. There's a thing on there that talks about how with this test to play, you can go back to sports. Well, it doesn't talk about if you're mask to mask and you're 0 to 3 that you can test in. So I asked today, I said, if we stayed mask to mask and we got some of these kids on a modified quarantine 0 to 3 feet away, can we test them out to play sports? And she said, yes, she could use that. So we can use that no matter what. To be honest with you, we have to still figure it out. There's a lot to it. I mean, testing a lot. Do you want to add anything to that, Julie?
No, except that, it would include a lot more testing, and the tests are getting harder to come by. But I did just place an order today, so hopefully we'll be able to see some.
And the last thing that I would say, and then we'll have a discussion, is, there is an upcoming eligibility for vaccines for 5 and 12-year-olds. And I'm not saying that every family is going to run out to vaccine their kids, but that's coming pretty quick. We have been asked at our regional superintendents group through EdPlus to basically put our name in if we're interested in at least having a vaccination or a partner group. The health department, the county health department here is not really talking about teaming up like we did for staff. I have not heard from them, but there are some groups in St. Louis County that are reaching out, and so we put our name in as a district that we'd be interested if it came about where once that 5 through 12-year-old, or 5 and 11-year-olds, 5 and 11-year-olds were able to get tested, that we would partner with somebody to have vaccinated and have something here at an event. And of course, their parents, the parents would have to come. I would see it as more as an event. And we were talking about it, Danielle, we were all part of that. So we've just put our name in for that. We haven't heard anything yet. Nothing specific, but I want to make sure you guys know that that's coming soon as well. The other piece that I'm concerned about, and I'm not saying we shouldn't move forward with optional just because of this, but we're going to hit flu season here pretty quick, and we're going to hit, and I know we can't live out of fear, but we're just going to start getting in November and December, and I just don't know what that's going to look like. But we also meet every 30 days, and we can have that conversation. Okay. Before I stop talking, Danielle, Rodney, Julie, anything I'm missing that you would like to say about this, about the balanced approach to what we have tonight? Am I missing anything? Okay. Discussion, questions for you all.
So I want to make sure I'm hearing you right. And the last several times we voted on masks, we made data-driven decisions. So you're telling me that the CO team has come to us tonight with no data-driven recommendation.
Well, I can give you that,
That's what I mean,
So-
I
so-
mean, that's the decision we've made.
but,
And so
that,
if we are
and-
going to continue to make
yeah, so
data-driven.
and I appreciate that. To that point, with my conversation, and if that's what you would like from me, I feel like we're at a point that we need to talk about an optional setting. But if you look at the data, we are right there at the cusp of that substantial and that moderate risk. And I had that conversation with the health department as well, the health director is today. And I believe that 7.9 and below, which would put us in that moderate risk, really would put us, like if we were at 7.4 from Friday, I think we're ready for an optional. We
Could-
popped up to,
Chris, can Chris put that
sure.
slide back up?
Sure, that slide, you got it?
Chris, can you put that slide, what was it, like 4?
Slide 11. See what- Slide 11? Okay, so we're at 8.29 in the county, 8.23 in the city. This is what we're using, so this is what I was talking about. We were at 7.4 on Friday. So when I wrote that presentation that said, hey, we're ready for an optional, I still think we're ready for that conversation, but I can't for sure tell.
But the CO, you do not have a recommendation.
I don't have a full, me personally don't have a full recommendation to say we should do this or that. I think we're on the cusp of it.
And Leslie, and the whole reason that just because I think we're kind of on the fence is, what's the right thing to do?
Julie, can you put your mask
Oh,
down?
I'm
so I
sorry.
can-
Because we've talked about it, like, do we make a recommendation? Do we not? Do we do, but the problem is, I think we're at like such a point where it could go this way or it could go this way. The reason that I suggested even the 9 through 12 instead of the 7 through 12 is because if you look at our total cases, we have only had 10 total cases between both high schools. So that's what, roughly 1,600 kids, 1,500 kids, right?
Yeah, but is that because we're mandating masks?
Well, right, but hold on, that's not the point I was gonna make. Just in our middle school, which has 700 kids, we've had 12 cases. So we've had more in just that group because that's such a tight building, small spaces. When I talked to Dr. Diggs about why are your guys' numbers so high, and they have had a lot of kids out on school quarantine because of the tightness of that building and how close together they need to be, where in some of our other buildings, they can spread out a little bit more. And then in Jefferson, in their 700 semi kids, they've had 14 cases. So our middle school and our intermediate school kind of have the highest percentages, and then elementary total, there's been 36. And again, we know that they can't get vaccinated, and we know that Jefferson really can't get vaccinated. But so when we were just talking about it and we were looking at the numbers, we've had, I guess, almost 4 per kid. We've almost had 4 times as many at the middle school get sick or, have COVID than the high school, if you're looking at number of kids.
Okay.
So that's just kind of, I don't think,
I'm just very surprised by this.
Well, we're right in the middle of it. We're right in the middle of the cusp. And so if you want me to flat out tell you what I think, I would tell you that I still think K through 6, we need to be masked up. For sure. I am on the fence for 7th through 12th grade. And I can also go 9th through 12th grade.
We discussed earlier if we would approve a mask optional for the high school, say. Could we also approve an automatic kill switch that you could enact in a case of an outbreak
Before our
at a
next meeting.
particular, say number of cases or a percent of cases, then we wouldn't have to meet again. And we need to discuss what that number would be, what's an acceptable number.
So far, I mean, every board meeting, we will
Yes,
review
yeah.
and decide whatever we're doing, to continue that or to
Exactly.
make some change. But if some outbreak
yeah.
happens in between that time period, you're
Yeah.
suggesting some kind of a number.
Yeah, well, to that point, great point, and you and I talked a little bit before the meeting, and we had a threshold last year. We used a 5%, and we kind of talked about where that came from, but we kind of took that as a number that they were using for different things. And we found out last year with a 5% in each of our buildings that if we got to that level, we were in a tough spot, and we were close to do that. Now, that last year we used that as a threshold to get to that point to go to virtual. Now, I don't necessarily want to do that. I'd rather think that the threshold would be whatever the point would be. It would be to put full masks back on until we can meet. So, no, okay. My thought is, to answer your question, some of the districts are using 2% for some of it and also 4%. I would feel very comfortable with 4% to put masks back on.
How quickly, though, could we then notify parents to make some switch that quickly?
They do that. We would be able to do that within that night.
That
or
night,
I mean,
okay.
we could do it that day. We can get.
We're talking about 30 days here, okay? And I think what we're doing is we're rolling the dice on this, because we're right there. I am not going to put people at risk if we're in this substantial risk area. What is 30 more days to see if there's going to be a breakout or if it's going to subside? I don't get it. I'm not rolling the
That's
dice.
what I don't understand, is why we're not making a recommendation this month based on the same data that you made the recommendation the past 2 months on.
Because our positivity rate was 11%.
Right, but we're still in the substantial risk.
We were at the high risk.
Oh, no, but we're still at substantial risk. It's not like we're down in low risk or.
Well, Friday, we would.
Again, I'm just trying to explain that we're getting into a cusp area that we need to make that decision. I told you all, and I told our families, and I told their staff that once we get below 10, we'll start having conversations. I'm not totally comfortable with an optional mask at any level, but if we are going to make it a try, I would say it has to be 7th through 12th or 9th through 12th. It cannot be K through 6 at this point. Now, saying that, you're right, we're a substantial risk. I really do believe it's a balanced discussion from you all, and I think your point was valid. And if you want me to talk about 7 through 12, to me, we are going down. We were at 7.4 on Friday, and we're getting there. And I said it, what we're doing is working. So I'm okay. So me giving you for 7th through 12th grade, not giving you a specific recommendation, I'm not saying I want to go optional. I'm just saying we're right at that point to start having that conversation. And you guys need to make that decision. I'm trying to give you all the data points. We went from 11 to 7.4. Actually, we're 13 and 15, down to 7.4. Now we're up at 8.2. Just because we went from 7.4 to 8.2 in 5 days, I didn't think I could change my thought pattern of, let's continue to have a conversation about what this looks like.
Well, I think that is the job of our board, is to have this discussion. So for me, just looking at the decreasing trend, and I realized on Friday it was at 7.2 and 7.9, and then it went to 8.2. I don't mean that's insignificant amount. It just says, as Julie was pointing out, and you did too, this is going to fluctuate a little bit all the time. But I'm seeing, I'm heartened to see a long-term kind of trending down. And for me, I'm ready to at least do a modified so that we can do 7 through 12, grade 7 through 12.
Can I mention one more thing too that Jason said, but what we're not focusing on right this second, but maybe we need to consider as part of this, is that when we were here last month, we did not have that other optional modification. So last month, when our 2 goals are to keep kids safe and to keep them in school, if they weren't mask to mask a month ago, they were staying home. Now, if one person has a mask on, that person with the mask on gets to stay. So with it being optional, a month ago, if it was optional, even the kiddo that wore the mask to school would be sent home. So he couldn't even protect himself from being quarantined. Whereas now, if we decided to do something different, if you don't want to get sent home, all you have to do is wear your mask to school.
And that's why that brings the point to it, by seeing the modifications that are coming, which will allow kids to stay in school. But this, as you said, if a kid really wants to be safe about it, he'll come in with a mask. But now we're letting parents make that, or the student. You get to decide. And a lot of this is parent decision. And we haven't let the parents make that decision. So now, part of my input here is that the trend I see is coming down. And at this point, I think I can put more decision-making into the parents of the grade 7 through 12. And if they feel like, I don't even want to take the risk that my kid might have to miss some school, then send him in a mask. But we're giving you the option that it'll be optional.
I have a question. So for teachers, if they have the option as well to still wear a mask, even if they're in a building, they're optional.
No, oh, and optional. But if they're in a,
So if we decided at the 7 through 12 or 9 through 12, teachers could still be masked up or
Yep.
vaccinated and would not have to,
Yeah, it's their option.
right?
we're talking about in our classrooms, if we go to an optional plan, then when people come to our events, like tonight, if it's optional is it now optional for them? Okay.
I got a question. Why don't we treat the people that had the coronavirus the same as the ones that had the shot? Because if you've had it, you've got antibodies in your body that protect you from getting it again. So why are we treating them different?
We do for 90 days.
90
Is what
days
the
they
health
get
department
immunity.
gives us, the 90-day exception.
That's the health department. I'm saying us. Why are we treating them?
Because we follow them because they're the experts.
The shot doesn't, nobody knows. I mean, I've seen people with the shot get it also. So
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
To your point,
You're right.
I mean, to answer that question, we follow what the CDC and the local health department has told us to do. And back to Leslie's point in terms of the percentage, at 8.2, we are in that substantial risk. So I can't full out tell you optional is exactly what we should do. I think we have to have that conversation, though, as we're in that range, at least for 7 through 12, to at least have the conversation.
I understand that, but to me, the conversation becomes about innuendo and opinion, and so therefore, we could circle it all night long and never come to a decision. Like I said, it just seemed like in the beginning of this, we were making data-based decisions based on the numbers, and I don't know, and at the time, we talked about when we got down into that moderate, low risk, we would start talking about our options. So I just was surprised when I showed up tonight, and that has changed now.
Well, what I've said all along,
I just wasn't expecting it, that's all.
what I've said all along is 5 to 10 days, or 5.5 to 9.9, we would start having that conversation. That's what I've said. Now, saying that, there is, as I talked to the health director, there is a difference between the substantial and the moderate. And so we are in that, now we would have been in the moderate to 7.4. Now we're at 8.2, and we're splitting hairs with the two moderate and substantial. So again, what I've said is, anything in that 5 to 9 range, we'd have a conversation about what optional looks like.
But we're talking about making it optional, so the kids that still want to wear a mask, or
Good.
the parents want them to, they still
can.
and be protected.
Right.
And with the modification that we would go with the health director, department says that if you wear a mask, you pretty much can come back to school. Now, it's a modified, it's not sports and games and activities, but you would be able to come to school. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about is. You coming to get me? No? I think I'm in and out. One thing we haven't talked about, and not because it's their job and they'll do fine, but our administrators and our nurses and the people who contact trace, it becomes quite it kind of makes it worse. And it's harder because now we're masks. We have to figure out 3 feet within or 6 feet. But now we have a COVID case. Now we have to track it down. We have to figure out if you had a mask on or you didn't have a mask on. It just becomes quite the process.
It will be quite labor intensive.
Because with the new modified quarantine, they would have to monitor that student wear a mask for 14 days.
Right. But you have to track that, but they also have to track then, if there's an exposure, who had a mask on and who didn't. And that can be tough. What we're doing now is very clean and very concise. It's going to get muddier once we get to the optional parts.
Well, we also represent, we want the safety of our students first. And in saying that, we represent, as being elected by the community, the views of our community. And we've seen it from presentations, that's pretty much split, 51-49. But my input is that given the new modifications that we have and the trending downward, the modification allows our parents to make that decision of whether they want their children to have that extra mask, that protection or not, knowing that it's going to be more work for our staff. Okay. Do we have any other discussion on this topic? We're going to take a vote.
What's the what's the motion?
Yes.
What are we voting on?
The motion would be,
Is this just your recommendation? our
no,
motion?
I'm not making a recommendation.
Okay,
but we're-
because I don't know, that's what I'm saying, I've never,
So if we go back.
What's the
if we go back
recommendation?
to- We'll go back to slide 12. The conversation, and the discussion was in red there, or right above it, at this time, are we ready to move the following scenario? So it would be an expected for grades K through 6 that we mandated, and advised, but it's optional for 7 to 12 students this time. Or do we want to say it's 9 to 12? Now, saying that, I think the threshold, I don't know if you're comfortable with 4%, but a 4% threshold, we would put masks back on if we needed to immediately. But that, I just want to add that because you
Yeah.
talked about that.
What's 4% of a high school in real numbers? 5%?
Is that it? That's district-wide, though, 4%?
No, 4% would be in a specific.
The-
building.
In a specific
building,
building,
yeah.
okay.
You're talking,
Like a lot of cases.
it's a pretty good
Yeah.
amount of cases.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You can go,
That's
I've seen 2, I've seen 4, and I've seen 5.
4 seems like a middle number.
We were close in one of our elementaries. Yeah, on one of our tiny elementaries.
I need a strong argument, either for or against, to make up my mind.
Well, why don't we have a motion and we move it up or down of a motion. And I'm not going to make the motion, but I'd word it as, if someone wants to make a motion as in our recommendation, that we would move to have our masking would be expected at, or mandated at K through 6, and optional at 7 through 12. 7 through 12, with a kill switch or
Threshold.
a threshold of 4%.
And we're having more cases in the intermediate
We are.
schools. I would be more comfortable just at the high school level. And I don't know why I say that, but
Does anybody want to, should we, I'm looking
what
around
does
for,
Well,
I don't know, because like I said, it's just kind of all what your opinion is on
Yeah.
it.
well, it's
I
always
mean,
going to
it's
be
like-
our opinions on what
well,
we feel.
can we basically see what happens to the one motion and then devise a
Okay.
second
To that
motion?
point, let's just clarify.
Yeah,
We have said that we would discuss optional once we got below 10, and anything from 5 to 9. Clearly, we're at 8.2 today. That isn't a substantial risk. And I had a conversation with the health department, and to be on the safe side and be more comfortable, we need to stay in masks within the substantial risk. Okay?
The
But-
same decisions we made the past 2
So-
months. Right,
But we were at 11%.
right.
That's why we stayed in it. And then Friday, we were at 7.4%, so we could go right back there, we could go higher. So at 7.4%, we were moderate risk, and then we were right there probably to say, hey, we're optional. So I believe, again, with the numbers, you're right on that cusp line of what you want to do.
Do you have to do one vote, or could you do like K through 6?
That's what I
And then do like
suggested.
7 and 8, and then do like 9 through 12?
We can do that.
So that you could
Yeah.
go through each level?
Well,
Well, but if you break it down, I understand K through 4,
6.
or K through
'Cause
6.
that takes
And
up to
then-
the 12-year-olds.
And then,
9 through 12.
And then
and then 9 through 12, and 7,
7 and 8 is where
7 and
our
8.
Would- okay.
highest,
um,
that's
Can
why
I make a
Ellen had
motion?
just said
yes.
she was more comfortable with 9 through 12. So I was saying if you break it into 3 sections.
we're going to start with a motion, and if we vote it up or down, we'll
And then
change
we'll
it.
work from there. I move that we go with the mandated mask for grades K through 6 and optional for the 9 through 12 students with the possibility of a kill switch.
So you're leaving out the 7 and 8?
7 and 8. But that's what it sounds like people were pretty willing to go in that direction.
Okay, that's okay, so we'll have to come back and pick them up.
So I make that motion.
Hold on, she just said it's threshold of 4%.
I
Okay.
think that's what we
And
decided.
the kill switch means putting masks back fully on. Okay.
So the motion is that we will have a mandate for grades K through 6 and optional for grades 9 through 12 with the kill switch at 4%.
Putting masks
We'll
fully
have
back
to have a
on.
roll, let's have a roll call vote.
And starting when? Monday?
Yeah. Yeah, starting effective immediately.
Well,
Let them start tomorrow.
I'd like to,
I'd say Monday, so it.
Monday would
Monday.
be good, because we can get a
You
transition.
get it all
for-
out over the weekend.
Huh?
That way you can get it out to
Yeah, we
everybody.
have to get
over
it
the
out.
weekend.
Effective
Monday morning at
Start of school.
7 o'clock. or
Somebody
7.
second it?
I second the motion.
I'm going to call for a roll call vote. Do we vote on a roll call vote? I mean, do I have to get approved? Do we vote? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. So this passes for grades K through 6 and grades 9 through 12. Now we need a motion of what we'd like to do for grades 7 and 8.
And you said they have the most positives right now. Okay.
I can pull it up there.
was actually a little bit higher, but they're under 12, right?
Yes.
That's fifth and second.
Active in-persons, right now, Hardin is at 2 and Jefferson's at 4. There's 6 out of the 11 are at that
So
that
we-
level. Hold on, sorry. What about probables?
So we've already approved mandates for
It's not
K
Jefferson,
through,
I'm sorry, it's 7 through 8, Hardin, sorry. No, hold
K
on,
through 6.
I interrupted, I'm interrupting.
yeah, please,
7th and 8th grade Hardin, two active cases
So,
it's
the-
not that
out of the 11.
yeah, and for Hardin, we have 2 active cases, but. The thing with Hardin, and again, this is going to change because of the new quarantine, we've had 101 kids on modified quarantine because they were exposed.
we should take the mask off.
Full quarantine school, and 54 that have been on full quarantine overall.
And a lot of that modified quarantine is because of the 0 to 3 foot rule at that level and in that building, and how many kids we have in that building.
So,
So can I make a motion?
yes, yes.
Okay. I move that we mandate for the next 30 days for grades K through,
We've already done K through, sorry.
K through 8, that we mandate the masks.
Oh, wait a minute. We've already approved K through 6, so if you say K
She's
through
just
8,
adding.
and we want to
She's
change it,
adding 7th and 8th.
so you just have to
Yeah.
do 7 and 8.
Yeah, well, I'm just making it one group,
Well, but-
K through 8.
I know,
K
but
through
if I
6 is
approve
already
K through
done.
6, but I'm not going to approve 7 through 8, you lumping them all together.
Okay, so then.
Is that
what-
right?
What do you want me to do?
I-
Just,
This
just
is-
the
this
same
motion
motion,
just-
just do 7th and 8th grade.
This is just for 7 and 8.
Yeah.
It'll be
Okay.
approved K6.
So, okay, I make a motion that we mandate masks for grades 7 through 8.
Right.
With the kills.
Well, there is no kill switch, they're wearing masks.
They're in
Oh, your
masks.
motion is
Yeah.
amended. Okay. Is there a second? This one dies for lack of a second. Oh, okay, we had a second. I thought we didn't have a
Quietly.
second. Okay, we have a second. So this
7 through
motion
8.
is to mandate masks for grades 7 through 8, 7 and 8. And there is a second. I still going to ask for a roll call vote. No.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
No?
All right, so that one passes. So this evening, we have we've changed our mandate program to, we're mandating masks for grades K through 8, and optional for grades 9 through 12. And the optional has a kill threshold of 4%.
Yeah, putting masks back on. And this will take effect Monday.
Monday, October the 18th.
Yeah,
Well,
me too.
we will review this again in 30 days, or,
Again,
Right.
again, the good news is, we watch these numbers like a hawk.
Yeah.
And if we get to a point where we need to put masks back on at the threshold, we will, and we'll be back here in 30 days with all our friends, so.
We can also have a special called board meeting if
we can-
necessary.
We can have a special board meeting.
Good.
A lot of other districts have done that as well.
yes, and if that would, that,
so we will
That-
revisit this again in 30 days, correct?
And just remember too, I don't know, I don't want to use a political term, but we have been the district who has stayed in the most stringent protocols this whole time. And you just approved something to give us a step forward to see what it looks like, and we'll go from there.
okay. All right, we are ready for new business, 7.1. We have a policy first reading. This policy, Marita and I reviewed it, and it has to do with electronically attendance for board meetings. And so we asked all of you to look at those changes. And this is the first reading, so if there's some discussion.
I have a problem with what happens if a person, a board member, who is joined by Zoom, and that's perfectly okay, and their internet suddenly goes down, and they aren't able to join the whole meeting. You phrased it, the whole meeting several times. And what if Rita's cat knocks off the router? And, oh, yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the cat knocks off the gateway, and her internet goes down just as Charles is starting his financial report.
Well, then that's a unique exception.
Yeah.
Well, it
And
doesn't
the
say that.
policy isn't about that.
Yeah, it doesn't say that in the policy.
Well, then
Well-
then we can start, getting all kinds of exceptions that we add into policies, which isn't a good idea.
Well, the old policy said that if they miss an item of business discussion, then they have to wait. They can't vote on that item. They have to wait till they hear the entire item.
Right.
So I would like to place that language back.
We can change it, but that was actually an MSBA thing. That wasn't our coming up with that.
The other issue was, and I'm trying to find it real quick, where when it talks, and more, we're using electronic means to make attendance in board meetings. That point that you were making was that they couldn't vote because they didn't hear the entire
Right.
discussion. But when we were discussing attending the entire meeting, we felt the importance was not only for you to vote as a board member, but for other board members to hear your input and your discussion,
Right.
because we are elected to represent the views of our citizens. And yes, if a unique thing would happen, and even tonight, sometimes our stuff
Yeah.
goes mute or something happens, things can happen, and I think we can deal with that kind of a happenstance. But for the most part, we felt it would be important that and I certainly don't think our boards, unless we have another pandemic like we had that kind of situation last year when we had all our meetings were Zoom meetings, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for our citizens to be part of to attend our meetings. And so I hope we don't go to total
Right, yeah.
electronic.
Uh-huh.
So when we have our board meeting, and if one of us needs to request to attend
Right.
virtually, we just want to make sure that it states that in allowing that kind of attendance, that person, that our member is there for the entire meeting and visible. I
Why
know-
visible? I don't understand why you want to see, if I'm at home and sitting on my couch because I say I have a cold and I don't want to bring it in the room, why is it important that you're looking at me?
I don't know that I have to, because
Why is it important that anybody's look at? Because that's not required, like at any of my work meetings. I've never had that required anywhere, to be visible.
I don't know when I
don't have a
see,
problem.
I
And
don't
because
go to,
especially if you're attending, virtually for, like you had a knee surgery, and so you got to keep your leg up, and you haven't showered in 3 days. I mean, I think that's really
Well,
micromanaging, because we are elected officials. We don't work for the board. We are elected, and I think
yeah,
telling
but you're
us
working
we-
for the.
Understood. But telling me I have to be available, where you have to
Visually?
see me,
It's not for me to
it's
see.
too much.
You're-
But you're the one who put it in here. You guys added it. Nobody else added it.
We did add it. We looked at it
Right.
because
So it sounds
we
like
want to
your
verify
policy.
that it is you that is talking on our.
Do you really
what I
think
mean.
it's come to that? That you have to verify that we are who we say we are?
Well,
It states in there that
Yeah.
even during closed session, you have to be able to verify that
For
you are
secur- it's a
indeed in a
security
closed session
thing.
environment.
Well,
So,
you're the one we get sent an invite by Chris to get into the meeting. It's not like anybody can just jump on a meeting. You get invited. He welcomes me into the waiting room. He welcomes me into the meeting. I think asking to look at my face the entire time, especially like I said, we had that happened already where we had a board member who needed to be virtual for personal reasons, and she was in full attendance, but she specifically
But you
asked
didn't
to
want to
not.
be seen.
I think that's just a little over the top.
Well, my only thing is, what happens if, my internet, and I've got fiber, and I live in the city, and my internet goes out weekly. And it's AT&T. And so I'm worried that what to do about that situation. Does my vote on all things not count? You know, and so I think it should be spelled out in the policy what to do in case, because technology is hinky.
Yeah.
We've learned that in the pandemic, and so I would like to see it
So-
spelled out what,
There's been
you know,
nothing.
if the president deems it to be an intentional disconnection, okay, but, you know, what to
I'm
do.
not, you're making me sound pretty villainous.
Well,
Excuse me? Is that how you feel?
no, I don't. I
Well,
was
it just
making
seems
a
like we
joke.
have a lot of attention around attendance over the last couple
It
of
has,
months.
that's because we had a lot of poor attendance.
We have a
last-
lot of attention on it. We have a lot of attention.
Yes, that's because since this past summer, we've been trying to clean up some of the policies.
We were in a pandemic, things were hokey, things were odd, and now we're spending a lot of time on attendance.
Okay. Mike, we haven't heard from you. And we had.
I've been on the board for 15 years, and I've never seen any kind of attendance policy. If a board member says, I can't be here, everybody serves the community and they want to be here. But if they can't be here and they tell, you know, I'm going to be gone, because I'll tell you right now, in December, I won't be here. But, you know, I just think that we're going overboard. I mean, unless we got, because if you miss, was it 3 unexcused or whatever, then you can be terminated off the board. But we are here to support the community, and that's why I'm here. Because I listen to the community people, and I go the way they go a lot of times with a lot of things. Like I said, I've never seen anybody trying to figure out who is here. And just like she said, you got to see their face to know that's them on the meeting. I mean, come on. I mean, I just think it's ridiculous. But
Well,
Could it be
first
made
of
that
all-
they're visible to the board at the start of the meeting? I mean,
Take, so I can hear.
could it be that they're, if we need to make sure it is the correct person on there, that it's, you know, like on Zoom meetings, a lot of times you check in, you take attendance, and then you can turn your video off for reasons like they've stated, if necessary, so that it could be confirmed that the person is on the meeting visibly.
And that did happen last month because she
Right.
was there and then we turned it off.
But I don't think you can get on unless you're
Yeah,
invited.
you got it, I mean, that's
You
just.
gotta get the
I mean,
invite.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that, but.
So I don't think you
it
can
seems
even get on.
unnecessary.
And to be clear, this policy, now what happened? How do I get back on? This policy isn't one that we just created. It's a policy
It's been
that's
on the
been
books.
on the books. And Mike, as you said,
Yeah.
you know, you're not aware of it, but we weren't aware of it either. Thank you. But it's on the books. So we were trying to clean it up. Now, policy, BDA. It's a policy that has been here.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with it in its original form.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but
Well,
And again-
in the original form, this was a policy that's been on the books that we have ignored.
yes, I'm aware
That's
of
the
that. I
point.
pointed that
So,
out to you.
Yes, so this has been on the books.
Yes.
And we just totally ignored it. On the books, it says if an individual misses 3 unexcused, that person is no longer on that board.
Yeah.
And I think we're really missing the point. It's not about, you know, watching everybody or anything else like that. But we have a responsibility to the community, and when we get voted in, that community expects us to be here at our meetings. And that's our priority. And we have had people missing 7 meetings, 6 meetings in a year. You know, and so that's not fair to the community. And that's why we're looking at the policy. We expect every other policy in that book to be kept by the teachers and by the administrators. And now we have some policies that have been on the books, and we're ignoring it. So we're basically...
We're not arguing that, Marita. We're
Yeah.
saying there's nothing wrong with the policy. We can pull it back up and start following it What we're suggesting is that the policy was fine the way it was.
Well, the policy says if you miss 3 meetings, then you should be.
Unexcused meetings.
3 meetings in a row, it says.
And unexcused.
Unexcused.
3 unexcused in a row, though. I mean,
And
3
we
months
probably
straight.
did get rather lax in deciding, because it says it had to be approved by the board, not by the president. So that's the only reason we slightly changed it to, the audience doesn't hear that, but when we open our meetings, we say, we have a quorum with all in attendance, or we have a quorum with all in attendance and so-and-so being asked to be excused. So we are now following board policy on that. And that wasn't meant to be a big deal, and we're following it. This one was the follow-up because electronic parts, we just want to make sure that the electronic beast doesn't overshadow or overtake our face-to-face kinds of meetings.
And when we do those, we have our closed session meetings, which are extremely confidential. Even in my own business, when we Zoomed and so on, the first thing I ask is, who else is in that room? Second thing I ask is, are you taping this? You know, so there is a confidentiality of what the work we do.
And it's not something that's, it's not something, as you said, well, we've been functioning the way it is. But somewhere down the road, with the way it is, who's to say that we wouldn't have, not as boards change, that we have members on the board when winter comes and 4 or 5 decide, gosh, it's really kind of cold, I think I'll just call in and say I'm going to do it electronically. We end up having 2 or 3 members in person, and we're having more and more members staying home. So we just tried to clean it up to say, it's not so much us right now, it's just to say a board meeting is once a month. It's a chance for us to have these discussions, and a discussion works better face-to-face. When you do it through Zoom, one person starts talking, and then someone else tries to get in, but you know, with Zoom, then that person, it clicks over to the, Zoom drives everybody crazy. So this is for future, just to make sure that boards meet and have discussions and get a chance to air and hear a lot of what the community has either said to us or input from the community that we can share in our discussions, and then we can vote. So it isn't so much Maria and I being tough, dogged. It's just that we are looking at policies, and this one, we're just looking at the future of the electronic kinds of board meetings.
Okay, well, I take issue with having to be looked at. So that's, if we want a general discussion about it, you and Marita wrote it. I take issue with that. So, and then, I don't know if anybody else takes issue, but then we can move on, I guess.
Would you click in first and then click out, or mean entirely not?
I think it's if you want someone to click in, that's fine, but I think that's
And then-
over the top, because you have to be invited to these meetings. And I think that's the upside, is we have a feel for what each other sounds like.
Sure. So if, for us right now, and for future board members, if we took out the participation may occur by telephone, video conference, or other electronic means and be visible to the board, just take that out.
Yeah, they just need to be available.
So the participation may occur by telephone, video conference, or other electronic means. What's your suggestion on establishing someone who is choosing to do the electronic?
Ask me that again?
Well, help me with the wording. So if we take out visible to the board, how?
And other electronic means, and be, I don't think could you just put a period there? or other electronic means, period.
How were we going, I thought we said that they would establish during the quorum, or not?
I think it's unnecessary, because
Okay.
you're, like I said, you're invited to the board. It's a extra step for no reason.
Okay.
You're
And
asking for clarification
She's
when
wa-
it says during the establishment of quorum?
Well, no, that's not the sentence on page 1, where it simply says participation may occur by telephone, video conference, or other electronic means, and be participation and be visible to the board. This, she'd like to just take that out and put a period.
I don't know if anybody else is,
Okay, how many would like to end it with a period right there? If being not visible and discussions get going, the only way I'll know someone needs to break in,
is I click raise my hand.
well, we won't see it.
You'll get an alert saying Leslie Knight has a question.
I won't see that because I'm not on
You will
Zoom.
see it, because you will be running, or Chris will see it.
But she's saying if we're having a meeting that we're all physically present and you're on Zoom,
I won't,
you would see it, but possibly she's saying
But Chris would know, I have a question.
it is delayed some.
that's going, I see a problem with look, we're having a discussion now. No, hey, Chris.
If we're on a Zoom meeting, okay,
No.
no, just me. I'm just on a Zoom meeting. You've invited me to the meeting, I'm on Zoom, and I have a question, I have my camera off, I can just click, okay, question, and you would know I have a question.
Possibly, how do you have to be watching Zoom the entire time to know exactly you want a question? The board members themselves might not know.
But I mean, you would hear me. You would hear me. I would say, Donna, I have a question. I mean, like, I think the difference, this is why I think we think it sounds a lot like splitting hairs, is we're making it way more complicated.
Well, we were splitting hairs on.
Than it
other
has to
stuff.
be, right.
Yeah.
But if I'm on a Zoom meeting, it doesn't matter if you can see me, because you can always hear me. Because I'm going to stay on mute, just like I do here. I stay on mute, and then when I'm ready to talk, I take my mute off.
Turn your thing for me. If I had a screen facing me, I could see, without hearing, I could see
You know what,
somebody.
we got a lot of business. We need to move on.
Well,
But this is like, I just don't understand, and it's just better if we move on.
are there any other, that so far this stays as is on the first reading?
So
But-
this is only our first,
It is our first reading, but we will need to approve it at the next meeting. So if there's something you feel needs to be changed, we need to make that now so we can do it.
But we're letting you know, or at least I'm letting you know, I feel something needs to be changed and nothing's happening.
I'm sorry. that-
So, I mean, I don't know.
I'm getting your input. And
I mean, there's nothing to vote on. It's
No,
more
this is
nothing to vote
consensus
on.
of what everyone
Yeah.
believes.
we vote next time. The problem is, next time this comes up,
Right.
then we vote, we approve this as it looks, or we don't approve it as it looks. We can leave it at that. And if you don't, you can vote it up or down, I guess.
Sure.
All right. I'm sorry. Well, then, if one person sends me a change, do I change it when the other 6 haven't? Oh, okay. That's right. We did that one time. If next month, this needs more discussion, we'll do it, and then we can do it at a third reading. It just helps if that visible thing is helpful for the person who's leading the meeting to be able to see all participants. We're going to, that doesn't take any vote. 7.2, our annual school election. We need to approve the notice of annual school election. Is there a motion? Yeah, and that just tells you the dates and the times. Okay. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. 7.03, alternative education program.
Before I get into this presentation, I just want to say one comment, that the mask mandate on the buses will continue, just so everybody knows that, because that is a federal mandate, so just so everybody knows that. And now that we've gone to 9th through 12th in our building, or our high school buildings, if we have an indoor event in the high schools, it is an optional setting at this point. We would encourage people that are not vaccinated to still wear masks, but at this point, we can try to police our younger kids that come in, but at this point, it's going to be hard to do, just so you know. Okay. Alternative education presentation. We have Dr. Christine Jarris with us tonight, so she's going to add some 2 cents to some of this in just a second, so we're glad she's with us. Obviously, Brendan Kearns was part of the, he made a great comment earlier about it. He was part of our committee as well, so Brendan, thanks. And then Dr. Tormala, Julie McClard were part of our committee. Yep. And then we've got Jessica's back there. Jessica Evans is a big part of our committee as well. Jessica, thanks for being here as well. So you all can chime in as we go. We're excited to give you a really good update of what has taken place as we move forward with our Success Campus. So the why to it is to expand our Success Campus to a full-day program in order to enhance our ability to meet our students' academic, social, and emotional needs. I will go into more detail of what that means in terms of what are the kids will be serving there at the Success Campus. Number 3, please. Next slide. So it starts off with, we want to talk about what the application selection process looks like. And again, please keep in mind as we get through this and we have a conversation about what this looks like, this is a big undertaking of taking a half-day program and turning it into a full-day program. It sounds like an easy process, but it is not. And we've come up with a lot of good details, some major details on how our key elements and how we're moving forward. But you'll see also on a slide that there are a lot of things that we're still working out, that we're already having meetings about to really make sure we'll flush it out. We went to talk to the staff, to the Success staff on Monday to give them an update on this presentation, so they would have a really good idea of where we're at. Now, 3 or 4 of the staff members, out of the, how many staff members do you have?
We have about 14.
Okay, so 3 or 4 of them were on our committee, so they have been, every step of the way communicating as well, so there was just no shock to what we're doing, but we wanted them to see the presentation. And so this talks about the selection process, and again, through this process and the meetings that we've had, we've done a lot of vetting of other programs. We've had other people come in from various districts to show us exactly what they do for alternative settings. And the whole thought of this was our halftime credit recovery focused program is outdated. And we're looking at a full day program. That does not mean that people like Brendan Kearns and the staff aren't doing great things or working well with kids, but the setting and the format that we're doing is just not fully meeting their needs. Now, we say that, so the process will be this. You're looking at starting with sophomores, and so January, February-ish area, we will have a referral process that will start with our counselors, and there's an application that we've already come up with, and again, we've used bits and pieces from other school districts, and all of those things will be on there. So you're going to see student information. The students would fill out the application. There's an autobiographical sketch of the students, so they tell us exactly what their needs are and what's happening with them. The counselor will be involved with the statement. The principal will be a statement, and teachers. A lot of these kiddos are already in our Success program, so they're already there. We don't have a whole lot of kids waiting to come to Success. So a lot of the kids, it's not like all of a sudden we're going to have 100 kids wanting to come in here from the regular setting now. That doesn't mean we're not going to have some kids from the regular setting, but for the most part, a lot of the kids that are there now will be able to go there full day. Now, again, if you do the math, we're going from full day to half day. We have about 100 kids now, so we're talking about starting with 50. and it sounds like, oh my gosh, we're going to be cutting a lot of kids out of getting help. We're going to talk about what the other end of that looks like as we get in back on the buildings for the credit recovery piece, because that's a big part. So there's a whole process here that will be started with the counselors, the student will be involved, the parent will be involved, the counselor, the principal, the teacher, and really selecting the priorities of the students that will go to school there. Okay? Committee members, anything you want to add to that? So again, we're not looking at all of a sudden we're going to have all these other kids that want to come here. It could be some kids that are in the regular setting that haven't had a chance to come to Success or need to go to Success. But the vetting process will be, again, through our RTI process of what is the appropriate intervention for our kids. We have a lot of kids that are at the Success campus that need credit recovery. They certainly need help with a class or two. Well, we don't necessarily need to pull them out, take them on a bus, bring them over for the facility to let that happen. We can do that in the building. So next slide, please. So I'm going to have Chris talk a little bit about the schedule. This also gives you a really good idea of some flex time that we have and some things that we're going to do social and emotional with our kids.
Is this on?
Yep.
When we looked at the schedule, a couple things really that we wanted to focus on. Right now, we've got kids, we do quarters, so we wanted to stay in that system. We wanted to make sure they still had some embedded extra credit in there, because as we know, a lot of our kids still are going to be behind in credit. We, right now, run a more independent study type class where kids are working independently at their own pace. That is important, but going full day, we want to make sure they also get some of those full group learning experiences and a chance to get a little bit more engaged in their learning. So we looked at what's this flex time that's built into the schedule. It's a time during the day where we are actually going to, and there's still a lot of details to work out about the flex time and what this looks like, so this is just a general overview. But we're looking at pulling 2 classes a day in that flex time to have a 95-minute period that all of those kids, no matter which hour of the day they're working on, let's say Government 1 or biology, that they can go in with that teacher, all of the biology students in the building during that flex time to do a lab or to do a group discussion or a project or something like that. That's one of the ways we'll use the flex time. The other thing, we wanted to have some time built into the schedule where we know that social emotional is such a huge part of our building, but when do we teach those skills? Do we pull them out of classes? What does that look like? So we also wanted a time built in the schedule where those kids, when they're doing group sessions and things like that, would not necessarily be missing academic time. On Wednesdays, the flex time, because we get out earlier, is smaller, yet that time will not have any academic classes built into it, group sessions. So that's a perfect time where our counselors can run groups and do some of that work. This will also give kids who possibly that flex time, if they aren't, our kids oftentimes don't have good attendance in our building just because of the nature of the alternative at-risk type student. So this is a chance, kind of like AIP, for those students to get caught back up. If they don't have one of the 2 big classes that are meeting as a group, they're working to get caught back up or with a counselor in one of those groups. So again, we've got a lot of work to do with the schedule as far as the flex time piece and the organization within the building, but we're excited about that piece and feel that's really going to be valuable for our students.
How much of this instruction will be online, if at all?
Good question.
Great question. We actually have a contract with Edmentum, so we have online resources available in our building. It kind of depends on the course. Right now, my teachers, for that independent study part, it depends on the subject. Some subjects work better with that and some don't, depending also on the curriculum available. There's a couple, our social studies teacher and one of our math teachers use the program fairly regularly. Other teachers may just pull like a section or 2 out. Most of them give the students a choice. If a student is not working well in that virtual program, they will pull them out and do more book work and one-on-one that way. So our teachers are pretty flexible. Art classes typically are capped at 10. So even though, the students are all working possibly on different classes at different times, the teacher only has 10 students in the room at the most.
So to that, no, that's a good question, Ellen, too. And our teachers at Success Campus are doing a great job of teaching content now, but there's a heavy thought of recovery and getting a class done and going. This will be their regular classes and schedules, so it's a different feel to the instruction. It will be actually, they're not going to be, the kids that are there for the most part won't be going back to their high school, so their classes, that's their regular schedule. So there's a little bit more of a feel of, hey, this is where I'm at. I don't have to hurry up and try to figure out a recovery. Like they're going to go, obviously we still have the same credits. We're going to still have them do the same things, but they're going to go at their pace, and it's a little bit more of a unique situation, unique learning experience for our kids.
And it sounds like you're starting out slowly, dipping your toe into it, and I think that's a wonderful approach because you get to evaluate what is working and what is not.
I think it's also a good approach because, and Jason was, I think, alluding to this, that these kids need to feel the ownership and the identify with that location, not just jumping back and forth.
Well, and to that point too, a couple of those we'll talk. Did you want to add anything else? Do you want to do the second? Okay. We'll go to the next slide. Thank you, Chris. So that kind of just gives you an idea of some more details that she just talked about, some of that flexibility. And again, you'll see where we really want to hit the social and emotional piece. And we have a full-time counselor over there now, so they have actually a counselor and a half over there that's really being able to do some things. And so, and to your point, Ellen, and Donna, to your point too as well, when we look at this, it is an ongoing process of figuring out what's working, what's not. We had a conversation this week. Good question about kind of what are we going to be looking at. We'll be giving you updates on my superintendent comments next year, and then we'll put this in the biannual weekly or the biannual updates that we've been doing. And we're going to be looking at what do the grades look like? What does graduation rate look like? What does the credit recovery look like? What are the survey results? We can do survey results to see really are we meeting the kids' needs and the family's needs. And we got some really neat things. You want to go to the next slide, Chris, please? There's just, I'll be honest with you. When we start getting into this, it's such an exciting thing to do, but then it also becomes very overwhelming at times because there's so much we want to get to. But this is other implications and other important notes that we just wanted to kind of give you a heads up. So it's not just about success. So we've got the full day program at Success, but here are some things that we're working on. So the other part of that is that, and we're not kicking kids out and we're not saying, oh, you can't come to Success. If that is truly through that process, through all the staff people, the child themselves, and the vetting process, if that's the setting, we'll have them there. If they're a credit away, if they just need a little extra help, we believe we can take that credit recovery and put it back in the high schools. Both high schools have an academy. They have something that they're already doing credit recovery. Now, I put staff implications in there because we'll probably have to add a spot there, one or two in each building, to really make sure that we have enough help. Now, that's where the credit recovery comes back more on online, and they do things on the computer. And so we feel like we can still give kids that a little extra oomph, a little extra help within their day, but they don't have to leave their school for it. You want to add that? Were you adding that to anything? Committee members add anything to that? Now, a couple of things we're working on. Transportation. So transportation, make sure I'm on. We're just really starting looking at some nuances and some of the nitty-gritty details. And so we want them to be able to start in on time. And so they take a bus. Right now, West kids take a bus over there. And so can we do something with transportation to make sure we get the kids over there quicker to start and have a full day with them? And then can we look at a shuttle from West and like a midday shuttle? Because we're also talking about, even though we're focused on the full day program, we also think there might be a piece where a kid or two or some kids might need to come over for a half day still. They might still need that somehow. So we want to make sure that's open to maybe being able to do that. So we don't want to close that off. We're looking at meals, breakfast, and lunch, clinic usage. We're already partnering with SCHS on that, are starting to have those conversations. We talked about the early release schedule a little bit, and then we are going to renovate this building. And so this building, we're not adding space up like 2 floors or anything like that. We kind of joked it the other day, but and it's not, when you walk into Success, when it's done, you're not going to go, oh my gosh, it's a different building. But we're tweaking it enough that it's a little bit more specific to an actual school building and making sure those classes are set for the size that we're going to have, and just a little bit more efficiency where the offices are, so that's all going to happen this summer. So that's quite a feat, but we're going to go for it. So you can tell a lot is happening over there. Next slide, please. Now, we don't have to go over all these specific things, and I thought about taking this out, but I just kind of wanted to give you a real good glimpse of what the weeds look like. So so Ellen, you asked the question, what are we going to do? We talked this week about how we're going to evaluate. Well, we have a question. What do we do when students aren't successful in that program? What does that look like? And I'm not saying we have all the answers yet, but these are the things that we're looking at. So, and then what does discipline look over there? We're going to have a code of conduct over there. We still want our kids to behave. But what does it look like for certain things that we do over there to make sure that our kids are still accountable, but we're working through things with them? So we're looking at discipline. We're looking at the Missouri Options Program. Is there an early graduation for pre-game? Pre-program for juniors, and what does that look like, and streamline that process a little bit more. We're looking at PD for the staff, of really what this concept and what this building looks like, and this type of programming. Obviously, there'll be some budgeting things that we'll look at. Community connections. What are the partnerships and the organizations? We want to really bring in different elements to the social emotional experience. We'd like to bring in a boxing trainer, those type of people who come in and really connect with our kids. And then we have to figure out, what does the PE and the fine arts look like? Is that an online? Is that utilizing SCHS? Some of those, and I don't want to stereotype the kids, but if they're in an alternative setting, they probably don't want to go to a full-blown PE class. But what does that look like? And so a lot of things we're working on. The construction project timelines. We're going to get an update from Josh tonight on some of those projects from our bond issue. Student parking, we were talking about that. We think we've got that worked out. And then is there logistics to having some half-day students there? Obviously, IEP and ELL services. And then SIS K-12 reporting, and what does it look like with a program versus school? As you said, Ellen, we're kind of starting slow. So this will still be a program. It's a full-day program. It's still the Success Campus. It's not a separate school. It's still a program. There's still a West Warrior or a High because of the reporting at this point and what it looks like for EOC scores. And then Misha eligibility, they still would play for West, and they're in the West boundaries, they still play for High. Now, if we change it to a separate school, we can still think we can do some of those Misha eligibilities and let them play at their separate schools, but we're not ready to make this a separate school. It's a full-day program, but we'll get to that level at some point, okay? And there's another, we met, when did we meet, Tuesday? The three of us? Well, no, Monday, after we met. So Chris and Danielle and I sat down, and we really started hitting this list, but then the list grew. we have more on it. So I just wanted to give you an idea of really all the details that we're trying to figure out. And again, I told the staff, it's not going to be perfect. There's a lot we have to work out, but we're really excited about making sure that we vet it. We get the kids who really need that full day process. We can do that through the application process and really make this a super place for kids to come learn and grow. So then possibilities and recommendations. This is a really, can you scroll up please, Chris? Scroll up. So this is kind of exciting because these are possibilities and things that we would really like to dream big and try to get to. So is there a chance, I just talked about starting on time but we might have kids that work at night. And so what does it look like could it be a flexible start for some of these kids? And what does that look like? And maybe that's an online kind of classes. We're looking at, and then I said we're looking possible for a halftime piece as well. And I kind of put, those are kind of years and dates that kind of say, hey, this is kind of what we can do. And then I would really like, and we would really like to see a night program. That would probably be full-based Ingenuity or one of our computer programs, but we got kiddos that work all day. And could they come for 4, I think we talked about 4 hours, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4 hours a night, and how could they really stay with their credits and get through that program and graduate through the night program. So we're excited about that possibility. We're also already in talks with Lewis and Clark and also our adult education program, since we are the fiscal agent. how can we add some of those experiences for our kids? And we already have our welding teacher over at Lewis and Clark that would love to do this, and so we're trying to put something together where it'd be like 2:30 to 5 o'clock. That could be for credit, for kids to come over, like elective credit, to come over and be a part of Lewis and Clark. The adult education probably would not be for credit, but that could be something that we looked at as well. And then connect them with, not that they can't go to college, because they'd be college, or they can go to college out of this program too, but then also can be ready for a career. We're also looking at, this is our focus right now, but Julie's already looking at our Triumph program and what does that look like, and our other alternative settings and what does that look like. I skipped over. We think there's a need for this at the 7th and 8th grade level as well. We don't quite know what that looks like. Right now our hands are full of Success. It would not be at Success because we do not have the room at Success, but what does it look like? And again, this full day program is not designed to pull hundreds of kids out of here and just dump them into the alternative setting. We're going to vet it. We're going to make sure it's what's appropriate for them and really get them that major help that they need. And we think we could do that at the 7th and 8th grade level at a point. And then long-term suspension programming, what does that look like through this process as well? So that kind of gives you the nitty-gritty a little bit. Chris, you want to go one more slide? I just want to say thank you. And we just had a great group. Sandy Looney is from Success. Chris Jarris, obviously, is our director from Success. Obviously, Dr. Tornala. Julie Basler is this. I go through this because it gives you a really good idea of the balance that we had in the room when we were making these decisions and really move forward. Julie Basler is our counselor at High. Jessica Evans, obviously, is here from the curriculum and instruction. Jeff Walker, you all know, is the principal. Julie's in the room. Tina Lauer is part of our CNI group here as well. Jordan Roach, he is our full-time counselor at Success at this point. Nicole Vestman's she is now a special ed teacher at St. Charles High. She was in the Triumph program, so she's brought really good thoughts and ideas. Stephanie Moran's our counselor over at West, because the counselor is going to be a big part of this. Scott Vogelko, obviously our principal, and then Brendan Kearns is with us as well. So 3 or 4 members from the Success campus, so they're plugged in, ready to go, owning this process as well, and we're really excited about seeing this move forward. So what are the next steps? So you saw that specific detailed list. That list has grown a little bit. We've knocked some things off, and that's when the next step is really to get ready for the process in January, February to vet it and start getting kids in the program for next year. Danielle is I'm passing the baton off to Danielle, which she's excited about, and she and Chris, I'm going to be a part of it, but she's still going to pull some of these people off this committee to work on specific tasks. Now we're getting down to really make sure that our tasks at hand get solved and ready to go for next year. Well, we're looking at, we would say at this point around 50, but it kind of just depends on what it actually looks like in terms of, we talk about 10 in the classroom and there's five sections.
That would be for a regular full-day program.
Yeah.
If you start talking about adding on a night program, that would be more students because you would be talking more staffing of teachers. Around 100?
We serve about around 90 or so, 90 to 95 in the True Credit Recovery Program. Then we have a Missouri Options Program, which right now I believe has about 15 students in it.
And the Missouri Options Program will still be at Success. They'll still be running that out there. But we believe there's a lot, that 40 or so kids can really get the help they need in their high school. If we put it where it needs to be in terms of the help with that.
Are there still middle schoolers that come to?
No.
No.
They come for STEP.
Oh, STEP, okay, gotcha.
So we're excited. There's still, this was a lot of work. There's still a lot of work to go, but we're excited about the process, and we've got a lot of people who are owning it and excited about it. I can't say enough about our staff, led by Chris over there. They're doing a great job and excited about really expanding what we can do for kids over there.
Thank you. I think it is exciting, and it's some needed. I'm glad we're looking at it and making some adjustments to our alternative program. So this was just an information. There's no motion involved. 7.04 is our benefit plan.
Eric is here. We are
Thanks for waiting.
fearless financial wizard and leader. Charles is not with us, but Eric's with us from CBiz, and he is I would say, a great partner of ours. I feel like he is almost on staff sometimes. He's here quite a bit helping, obviously, our financial department with Charles and navigate all these waters. And so Eric's here to take your questions and also give you a quick update. Eric, thanks for being with us tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jason. Thank you. Nobody could take Charles' place, but I'll do my best to stand in for him. Yeah, my name's Eric Feil. I'm a senior consultant at CBiz. And CBiz has had the privilege for the past 15 years to represent the City of St. Charles School District in the employee benefit marketplace. So we thank you for that. And it's our honor and our privilege. We are here tonight to talk about our 2022 benefit package that I believe was presented to you. It came recommended by the benefits committee that met several times throughout the year. And there are some changes that are recommended and mostly financially driven. Everybody knows that the cost of health care is not going down. So if there is a way to, if you do hear about that, let me know. I've been in this business 30 years, and I've never seen it go down before. So the benefit package is in front of you, and if you have questions or if you need me to walk through anything, I'm happy to do so.
Well, one thing that, under the dental, when you said, I mean, everything's going up, but one of the points was that you're working to negotiate a 2-year deal.
Correct.
How's that go? So,
We did that. Since that information came before you, we negotiated a 26% increase on the dental from a 36 for 2 years, which I would never want to brag about negotiating a 26% increase.
But compared to 36.
But for every dollar in premium that we were paying MetLife, they were paying out $1.24 in cost, in just our claims. So they have to have a margin in there too. So that's why they were asking for what they were.
I guess I would ask, if I'm a married teacher with 2 children, how much more am I going to pay out of my paycheck if I'm a premium healthcare?
Zero.
Zero. Okay.
Correct. In fact, on the dependent side, that's what's really nice about this package.
I want to make sure I'm looking at the right numbers here.
Yep. And what you want to look at is the employee cost for the premium plan is currently $1,342 a month, okay?
Okay.
That's going down to $1,325 a month. So that's the premium plan. It's the best plan that is offered by the district. So all the dependent costs are actually going down. I think there's one that's staying even. But where the increase in cost will come is if you have employee-only coverage under the premium plan. Right now, that cost is $0. It's going up to $52 a month. Okay, for that premium plan. Then the other 2 plans are still $0. In that particular tier, 580.
Because, and I can speak, and I can say this myself too, we've decided that my family is on my wife's insurance, so it's just me here, and it's silly not to be on the premium if they're offering that. So now I will have the base, and at this point, I'd probably just do the base. But if I wanted to do the personal, I had to pay, or the premium, I had to pay the 52. And we know this is a huge change for our teacher. Obviously it is. It's for all of us. It's not just our teachers, but all of us. And so, but through the vetting process, Eric has helped us, and through the committee, with the raises of costs and different things, it's time. We've been kind of talking about this, but it's time for us to do it. I'm not going to say the majority, but there's a lot of districts that offer the base.
Yeah.
But it is a change. I mean, there's people in this room that will tell you it's going to be a big change. It will be, I don't necessarily know individually how it's going to affect me yet, but if I stay on the base, it will be a little bit. But
yeah, and I can say we're probably about the only district I'm aware of, and I do a benchmark comparison, about 25 school districts in the area, that still pay for the premium plan up to now at 100%. That's a 100% coverage after the deductible plan, and the district did a heck of a job maintaining that premium plan for the employee at no cost.
I will note too, Eric, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think dental, we're not raising dental at all, but it went up quite a bit too, the percentage, didn't
Oh,
it?
percentage-wise, 26%
Yeah.
for 2 years. Dollar-wise, it's not near as big as the medical because we're
Right.
just talking about smaller
But
numbers.
percentage went up pretty high. though.
Percentage went up pretty high. The employees are going to feel that on the dependent side, but not on the employee-only
On the employee side.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly looks like the bulk of our staff are in the premium employee only, if I'm looking at these numbers correct.
You are.
Okay,
Yep.
so they're going to have the most impact.
They
So
will
most of our
definitely-
staff is going to have impact.
They will have impact.
Right,
And
so
that's where they can make a choice and say, well, do I want to maintain that 100% coverage and pay that $52 a month, or take a look at one of the other two free choices?
And that impact is a lot of, I mean, it's all of our levels of people, so.
How many employees do we have?
Oh,
You want to say
Stop.
on the plan?
No, just in total.
Okay.
900.
Yeah, right
something?
around,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
I was thinking close to 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this includes retirees also, let's keep in mind.
Any other questions for Eric?
Yeah.
Again, Eric, we appreciate you being here with us.
I love my relationship with you
and the
guys. Thank you so
continue-
much.
And the continued partnership's been great,
Yeah.
so we look forward to that, so.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Eric.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I move to approve the recommendations from the Benefits Committee as presented.
So- All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So this recommendation is approved. Item 7.05, I'm sorry, construction report, bond issue projects.
So,
This is, oh, go ahead.
Josh, you want to come up just so if there are any questions? With Charles not here, we thought we'd bring Josh if you had any questions. So you'll see there's 3 of them on there. Do you want to talk about them at all, or do you just want to take questions?
Well, I
or-
was told to be here for the board recommendations, but I'm happy to give you whatever I have off the top of my head, so. What do you have for me?
Well, we got the Lincoln landscape, Lincoln
So the
landscape.
Yeah, the Lincoln
playground.
landscaping job is in coordination with the playground job that we're already doing at Lincoln, which the board approved a while back. That job is happening hopefully next week. And the landscaping is going to be, like I mentioned, it's going to be all part of that. So hoping to have all that done sometime in November, see how that goes.
And just so if you remember, that's the property we bought, and the house is down. It's going to be a really nice playground and then a walking path
That's
as well.
correct. So you
through
have a
that.
winding path
gonna be pretty neat.
around that entire property, low-level lighting, and some tall evergreens that are going to block some of our property.
Really neat.
Some of the neighbors over there. It'll be a nice feature for the community.
And the other 2 projects on here, Josh, were, it looks like HVAC, both at High. One is a modernization project, and the other one's FSG HVAC recommendations.
That's correct. So St. Charles High, we're going to continue with our construction and our bond things that we have going on. So what we plan to do with St. Charles High is just a continuation of what we already were doing. A second phase of mechanical work over there, and it's going to modernize all the mechanical things that are, fatigued out and starting to age. So
Questions for Josh?
that's correct.
Yes. That's when we make sure we put bond projects on there so you know that it's all through that.
That walking area at Lincoln, is that, can be used by the the neighborhood?
So yes, the plan is to let everybody in that community, in that area, let all of them use it.
The key, and we remember when we talked to the neighbors and things there, we kept that, the playground is still going to be a soft area. It's not going to be, we're not going to have a lot of asphalt up there.
No.
So-
And Jason, to your points, the only asphalt's going to be on the walking
Is the
path
walking
around there.
path.
Everything else is going to be certified playground.
And so some of that, as we talked to the neighborhood about what they would want or kind of what their concerns were, they were afraid of a lot of asphalt up there, and a lot of people bouncing balls, all, that kind of, so it's going to be an actual playground, but then the walking trails coming into play that would be really cool for not only our kids, but staff, but also the neighbors, so. And speaking of that project, Lauren Mertz, she actually has the best view of it. Would you, her little, I always pop in her room because She literally looks out on that property. I mean, is it exciting to see? I mean, yeah. I mean, that's literally, that's her view every day.
Better than a house, looking at a house.
Yeah. So we got neat things going on with projects. I'll just brag on Josh for a second. Josh and his assistant director, Scott Bennett, and that whole group, maintenance group, I got to go out and see them the other day before they left early in the morning. And they're just doing an outstanding job. I mean, our grounds haven't looked have not looked better than they ever, I mean, it's just awesome. So kudos to Josh
Appreciate
and his
it.
department.
Can't do it without my team.
Yeah, it's awesome. Any other things for Josh with the projects?
Okay.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
President Towers, board, thanks.
Thanks for your patience and waiting too.
Second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the bond projects are approved. We're ready for item 7.06, our paraprofessional salary schedule changes. And that's,
That's going to be Dr. Lewis.
okay.
And I might chime in a little bit. You know I like to. Right, Leslie?
Yes.
You love when I chime in. Sorry. I'm just trying to give you a little laugh. Come on, Ronnie.
Yeah, we haven't heard from you.
Come on, man, let's go.
St. Charles County, thank you. Those are the districts in St. Charles County, and so I'm asking for the recommendation to go from 1370 to 1479, taking all paras from column C to column D.
An excellent idea. Those pairs need that.
Well, it's market value, and we are in such great need, and we felt like this is a really a logical step.
How long does it take someone to go from step one to step two to step three? Like, is that a time? Like
That's a
after
great
6
question.
months, or-
We don't give a step every year.
Okay.
And so really that's negotiated between our union folks and Charles in terms of how they take the steps. So logically, you would think that every year they would get a step and they would go down that salary schedule, but that's actually not the case. So you could be here for 3 years, 4 years, and still on step one.
So to Rodney's point, so when we negotiate that, each union, each rep, so we obviously have the certified, classified, and the transportation, they will have a pot of money that they will look at and see, can we take a step, what do we do, and how do we, so they have a lot of empowerment to kind of work with Charles on what that looks like.
Thank you.
May I make a motion?
Yes, looks like we're ready for a motion.
I move to approve the paraprofessional salary schedule change as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the salary schedule is approved, and we're ready for item 8.01, our homeless program evaluation. Is that Julie? Yep.
All right, and Emily Humphreys, the Executive Assistant for Student Services, is actually joining me tonight.
Hello. Welcome.
Emily's a crowd favorite, I can't help it, Emily.
She says she likes presenting, and she knows I don't like presenting, so we're going to tag team it. So. The presentation, please. Yes. So the presentation is just a quick summary of exactly what was in the board report for you. There's no new information in here. So anyways, if you want to go ahead, we're going to present this tonight. And so if you want to go to the next slide. Our homeless program basically is created, it aligns with the McKinney-Vento Act. It's a federal law that requires us to provide services and stability for students who are experiencing homelessness. The whole point of the program is to provide the educational stability even when kids are in transition and they're moving from house to house or doubled up with someone or living in a hotel, so that they're not constantly having to change schools, because we know that a lot of school change can really hinder academic success and social emotional success. The program also, sorry, let me go ahead and just set this down. The program also provides equal access. So within the program, the law provides free lunches, transportation. So just because a student may live outside of the district boundaries, it provides equal access to transportation, to Title I services and things like that. It protects students from preschool all the way up through 12th grade. So I'm going to go ahead to the next one, Chris.
I'm just going to go ahead and read our goals and objectives. This year, we're going through tiered monitoring through DESE, which happens every 3 years. So we've pulled most of our goals from what the state expects of us through that monitoring process. So 1, the district will annually survey the enrolled student body and identify all those students who are homeless. The district's homeless student identification efforts are coordinated with school personnel and community resources. The district ensures that there are no barriers to the enrollment, attendance, and success of homeless students. The district has a board-approved process for the resolution of disagreements related to homeless eligibility, enrollment, school selection, and the provision of services. The district provides comparable Title I-A services to homeless students attending non-Title I schools. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Chris. Okay. The district ensures immediate enrollment of homeless students in the school of choice and assists with basic school requirements such as records, immunizations, and residency requirements. The district identifies unaccompanied youth, ensures enrollment in school, removes barriers, and informs them of their status as independent students. The district ensures enrollment in the school of origin when determined to be in the best interest of the student. The district ensures transportation to the school of origin, and the district enrolls and provides equal opportunity to students to help them succeed in our schools.
So those are the things that we're pretty much, there's actually multiple more, there's a lot more goals or criteria that DESE's looking at when it comes to looking at our programming. And having done this now for 7 years, when it first started, I think there were 1 or 2 little questions in the tiered monitoring, and I think now there's like 23, something like that.
I think I have to provide like 50 pieces of evidence and 35 paragraphs.
Yeah, so over the course of the past 8 years, I've noticed that the incidents in our area of homelessness and the programming for homeless children and youth, there's been more of a focus on it. And it seems like the numbers are kind of increasing. But basically, the way we are kind of looking, some of the pieces that we use to evaluate our effectiveness is, 1, definitely that tiered monitoring. So when we started looking through the tiered monitoring, which I think is actually due tomorrow, we really are feeling like, hey, if we are able to provide everything within these criteria, then we're probably doing a really good job with our 50 pieces of evidence. Core data is another thing that we look at. So the state actually sent us a letter, I guess, over the summer saying that they thought our incidence of homelessness was lower than it should be. And they pull that from our core data numbers. So if we are too low in what they believe our percentages should be, then they will ask us, about our process and program, and, you know, how we actually came about our numbers. So making sure that our core data numbers are nice and correct is super important. Our board policy and our dispute resolution procedures over the past few years, you guys have had to like approve updates to those. And then the guidance that we really get from DESE is there's an administrative manual for the education of homeless children and youth that really kind of outlines a lot of the policies and procedures that we need to follow. So we're going to kind of go through the goals and kind of where we feel like we are on each of these goals. Or where we know we are, not where we feel we are, but.
So our district's process of surveying families and identifying homeless students happens a few different ways. So we do survey all families annually during the enrollment or registration process. So in the re-verification process every year through Tyler SIS, all families answer the housing questions to identify potential homeless families. And our district is a great size, so all of the key players at each building, registrars, social workers, counselors, teachers, hear from parents and or students when they are displaced, and then the buildings will contact me or Julie. And then I contact those families that have been identified either through enrollment or through just kind of the grassroots feel of our buildings, and I have a conversation to determine if they qualify for McKinney-Vento services. Julie and I always discuss complex situations, and then I notify families of their students' rights, of free and reduced lunch eligibility, Title I services, and other needs. And then I arrange transportation and notify appropriate building staff and food services. So this slide is the breakdown of McKinney-Vento students the last 3 years, which is also the last 3 years that I've worked for Julie. So as you can see, I have the total number every year, but then the big number is actually that second number, so the flex of students that either graduate, withdraw because their family has moved farther outside of the metro, or have found permanent housing. So really, identification and keeping up with student situations is a huge part of my job, just doing casework for that.
And it changes every single day.
Yeah, it does change every day.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and just to kind of, in the board report that I showed you, some of the ways, when we look at homeless family and youth, though, it's not, or homeless children and youth, it's not always students that are like living under a bridge or don't have, living in their cars. When they're, the definition for homelessness under McKinney-Vento is different than the homeless for like the governmental kind of like HUD.
The HUD, yeah.
So basically, if a student doesn't have fixed, adequate,
And regular.
thank you, and regular nighttime, like nighttime residence, then that would qualify them. So when we look at families who are doubled up and living with other families, they would, because of hardship, because they can't afford their own rent, or because maybe they got kicked out of their apartment, and so they're living doubled up, that would qualify them for homeless under McKinney-Vento. So it's a little bit different. Pretty much living in an RV or living in a hotel, things like that would also qualify them for McKinney-Vento. So when you see these numbers like 105 students who are homeless, they are not students who are like living on the street. They're just,
Right.
they meet that criteria. Okay, so our second goal was dealt with coordination with school personnel and community resources. So we train all of our school personnel on the identification of homeless children. That includes like bus drivers, because sometimes those people are the first people to notice that, like, hey, mom has been dropping a kiddo off at the school bus. They aren't coming out of their house anymore, things like that. So we have trained people on how to really identify some of those signals of what might be a student that's homeless. Emily, for the most part, she provides most of the PD anymore for those PD days. And like for our secretary meetings, she works with the registrars and the secretaries to provide professional development on homelessness. We have partnerships with the Continuum of Care and Systems of Care in St. Charles County. Posters in our school, every school building has posters that help identify what homelessness is. We put those in public libraries and youth in need. And then on Base Camp is a kind of a, it's kind of like a big giant distribution list of all like churches, groups, you know, like social services groups and
It's
school
software for us
districts.
to talk to each other.
Yeah, it's a way to
People who
kind of talk
provide
about
services to vulnerable populations.
Yes, so those get posted on Base Camp as well. And then we also have lots of partnerships with churches, food banks. We love St. Charles, Neighbor Helping Neighbor. You know, Kelly runs that, the Back to School Fair every year. A lot of those organizations we're partners with, and we really provide services for students that qualify under McKinney-Vento. Okay, goal 3.
So our third goal is to ensure that McKinney-Vento students experience no barriers to enrollment, attendance, or success. So board policy IGBCA was adopted to ensure this. Then McKinney-Vento students can enroll immediately, even if they do not have required documents. And transportation is provided through district buses or contracted transportation to ensure that our McKinney-Vento students can get to school.
The one thing that the law does require them to have to enroll is contact information, an address of where they're laying their head down at night. So that is the one thing that they must provide to be enrolled in our district. Goal number 4 is kind of my duties as liaison. So Emily and I, again, team up on this one quite a bit. She does a lot of the legwork here. So I'm the appointed district homeless liaison. She is the executive assistant. So together we disseminate required information to parents, students, staff, and family members. We both attend all the homeless liaison trainings and a lot of the area-wide meetings with other districts and other organizations. And we often collaborate on the dispute resolution process whenever that gets initiated, or when we have like kind of, it's not a really black and white thing. It's kind of gray, because why a family's living with another family, or why they are living in a hotel, or things like that are often gray. And so the reasoning behind a lot of it is super important.
Okay, so next we have our Title I services. So in the McKinney-Vento law, we specifically have Title I money that's set aside for McKinney-Vento students at non-Title I schools. And so in the 2018-19 school year, we provided families with meal vouchers. And then for this current year, we're determining the needs for the set-aside money for Title I. So we're brainstorming with counselors and social workers for things that our Care to Learn Foundation can't provide, or gaps in their service. So that looks like field trip fees, cap and gown fees, AP class fees, sports uniforms, dance tickets, things like that. Basically being able to provide for our McKinney-Vento students. And then we will put a plan together and submit that to DESE for tiered monitoring for how we plan to spend that set-aside money.
So if you notice, there's a little gap there in a couple of years. And so while we have had this set-aside money, a lot of times it's been very difficult to spend it because we have such good resources in our district. We have Neighbor Helping Neighbor, and we have Care to Learn, and all of these organizations that have really helped us out. So we really need to make sure that we're spending that Title I set aside, because it is a requirement. And so we, like Emily said, we've reached out, and it's been very nice having her on board too, because she was able to reach out to the counselors and kind of start a list of things already this year that we can start providing for our students that maybe Care to Learn wouldn't be able to provide. Okay, goal 6, immediate enrollment. And so when we talk about immediate enrollment, that's a very vague word, but you know, there's a state liaison as well, and she would, the previous one would always kind of tell us, you know, you have a couple days to kind of to get things rolling, but they really are like, you cannot wait for certain documents to enroll students. So back in the day when Hurricane Katrina happened, you know, a lot of those documents like immunizations and grades and things like that, those aren't things that were easily available whenever, you know, students come in. So we have to immediately enroll those students. We try to keep students in their school of origin unless a family really pushes that they want to be in the district in which they're living, because the school of origin really does help with that
continuity of education. And so our counselors, our social workers, and other staff provide assistance in helping collect that paperwork. Our nurses will call doctors' offices and try to help with immunization, things like that. Emily immediately sets up transportation if we are transporting them back to their school of origin, and typically that looks like cab service. If they're here and they're homeless, then we try to provide them with district transportation based on where they reside. And then we also immediately, within that same day, we are able to provide them with free and reduced lunch and Title I services. Now, the last 2 years, everybody's had free lunch, so it's, but if it wasn't that case, then our McKinney-Vento students would be getting that free lunch anyway.
Our next goal is making sure we are specifically looking out for our unaccompanied youth. So we make sure they are identified and enrolled the same way as other homeless students. And we inform unaccompanied youth of their independent status and rights through McKinney-Vento. So they actually receive their rights on a piece of paper that they sign off on. And then counselors help them with completing the FAFSA, setting up appointments with universities, and preparing ICAPs. Unaccompanied youth are youth that are living away from their parents for whatever reason. So they are either doubled up or in any of the situations duly described by themselves.
Do you know how many we have of them?
How many unaccompanied youth? I would say right now we're probably 12 to 15, most of them in high school.
Goal number 8, enrollment in the school of origin, is where we're always supposed to start unless when it's usually the best interest of the student. So students are given the option first to remain in the school of origin. We follow the school selection checklist, which really is a little checklist that kind of tells us, which would be the best in the best interest of students. We monitor absenteeism, and honestly, we don't necessarily monitor that within our office, so to speak, unless they've already become kind of flagged. But our registrars, or our attendance secretaries and principals will monitor that, and they'll call us and they'll be like, look, this kiddo's been coming in 2 hours late to school every day. We know they're living in Wright City and being cabbed here, but this is really starting to interfere with their attendance, or they're missing reading every day and now they're reading, grades are getting low. So we monitor that. The same with missing transportation. So there's kind of a 3 strikes you're out rule with any cab transportation. If they don't cancel the cab and we get charged 3 times for it and they haven't canceled it, then usually we'll say, that they've kind of lost that privilege and they need to possibly enroll in the district in which they're living. So as long as the families are really working with us to try and keep students in the school of origin, then we keep providing those services. But once in a while, we need to say, you know what, this might not be the best case scenario, and you might need to go enroll in the district in which you're living.
That's a question that I wanted to ask, but I think you pretty much answered it. But a student who is living outside our district, I hadn't thought of as far as Wright City, but we will provide the transportation, and you coordinate that to get them back to their school of origin.
Yes.
Or school of choice.
Yes.
So they can choose the school they want to go to.
Typically, yes. Unless it becomes an issue, and then we can help make that decision.
So, and when you said if it becomes a problem, we see that distance, even if they were coming, they still aren't getting there on time. There's the traffic or whatever it is, it's too long a distance.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We can insist.
We can start the process of kind of pushing, encouraging them to enroll in their district that they reside. And then if they disagree with that, which once in a while they do, we have not had any disputes this year, but in the past we have had people dispute, and we start that dispute resolution process. And so we say you have this many days, 5 days to dispute what we're saying. Otherwise, your last day of school would be this day, and we want you to go enroll in the district in which you're living. But since it's a federal law and not a state law too, this could be too that we transport kiddos to Alton. We don't have any kiddos going to Alton that I know of, but we can cross state lines if we have to.
But we
But we
would
s-
have to establish first that they were originally
Yes.
a student.
Yes.
Their origin was our school district.
Correct.
But
Or
they
vice
have
versa.
doubled up, or they're living at Alton or someplace else. So we're still responsible for them.
Correct. And when it comes to transportation, that cost is split between the cost. So if we're using cab transportation, now bus transportation, they're living in our district, then that's us.
Yeah.
But if they are living, if they are our student that is temporarily living doubled up with aunt and uncle in Hazelwood, then Hazelwood and us split the cost of the transportation.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's part of her job too, is she creates invoices and pays invoices from other districts in regards to
Transportation. is a big item.
transportation.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other districts, we all work very well together for the most part. I mean, and it's, as the law has progressed down the road, it's even better and better. So, yeah. And then I just said that. Okay, and then, yeah, we just kind of talked about that already. So let's go on to goal number 9.
Oh, transportation.
So goal 9 is to provide transportation for a McKinney-Vento student to their school of origin. We just kind of went through this, but essentially I complete transportation requests to contracted vendors, and then I provide school districts with contracts to split costs. I provide parents with contracts or unaccompanied youth with contracts stating our expectations, so they know that up front. I prepare and pay statements, and then transportation is provided until the end of the school year, even when a student becomes permanently housed during that school year, because McKinney-Vento status is good for the entire school year.
Yes. So if they become, that got added to the law in like when ESSA, I want to say ESSER, when ESSA, was that 2017, 16, something? They changed the law a little bit. Foster kiddos used to be within the McKinney-Vento law, and they got pulled out. And then they also changed it to, it used to be once they became permanently housed, transportation stopped, but they could continue attending that school through the rest of the year. And when that law passed, we also had to continue providing transportation through the end of the school year.
So if a family is doubling up in Wright City,
Mm-hmm.
and they find permanent housing in Wright City, we finish out that school year.
If
It's
they're
always
attending
a-
our school?
It's always a conversation
Yeah.
of the best interest of the student. So it is really up to them to choose, but we go through a school selection conversation.
And yeah, because honestly, if they got permanent housing in Wright City and they were being transported back here from there, and it's December, then we might say, you know what?
Yeah.
The break might be a great time for them to move.
To get
you know.
established in their new school.
So yeah, she's correct. It is a conversation. With the virtual piece of it, it's very interesting because this past week we had some virtual students who are virtual that are now homeless in our district, but were attending another school district too. And so that came up, and honestly, the same rights apply. So the students are continuing to attend the other school district virtually. There's no transportation involved, but they are still having to pay for the virtual education of these students until the end of the school year. Yeah.
We do.
Not us, because they are living in our district.
They're displaced from an outside district into ours. And so in conversation with them,
into
we
ours.
learned that the other school district could, under McKinney-Vento, continue to provide services for them.
Yeah.
Lots of conversations.
We do. So like it takes 2. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4, and we talk it through because, it's not just clear cut. And so some of these take really long. And we also, like I said, we have the state liaison. We will call and have conversations with her to kind of lead through the situation as well, because some of them are very tricky. All right, and then goal number 10, are we done with 9? Yeah. Goal number 10 was to provide equal opportunity, and again, this is kind of repeating some of this, but we provide free lunch, Title I services, and we actually have annual meetings with Title I coordinators from our district, food service, social workers, nurses, administrators, so that we can kind of coordinate services and make sure that we're following all the guidelines and that we're doing it as efficiently as possible.
Then the impact that this has on our students, So the quick identification of homeless students and families, I can't tell you the amount of conversations I have with parents that when their family does qualify for McKinney-Vento services, the sigh of relief that happens when I tell them that they can return for the year. Because that's the number one thing that they're concerned about for their student, and it builds trust between a school district and a family that just wants that stability for their students. And so that's our number one goal, is that stability. And then we're also able to have impact by being with our partners that provide the needed resources, our community partners, our school partners, and then our coordination with other districts, as Julie said, is just very open with needs for families.
All right, so when we talk about opportunities for growth, these are some ones we thought of, knowing that we're going through tiered monitoring. Desi may have some more suggestions for us in the future. We hope not. We hope we pass with flying colors. But the Title I set aside is something that we want to make sure that we're using every year, and that we're finding ways to provide additional services with that set aside money. Spreading the word to more people through signage at public places. So we do provide signs in our buildings and in shelters and in libraries, but probably we could even go even more above and beyond to try and get some of those posters and information out to other public spaces. Providing more assistance for college prep and application. So we're really trying to get with our counselors to help those unaccompanied youth, so that they actually are provided with additional services from colleges if they have been homeless, like I believe the year before they graduate or unaccompanied. They can get additional services with their colleges and universities. So having our counselors really work with them to kind of make sure that that they're getting all of their needs met there. More PD for the homeless liaison and executive assistant. So, we have done our DESE training. We've gone to the federal programs conference at the state level, but, there's always more, whether it be, last year we attended virtually the national conference. And so just more and more ideas on the ways we can provide support to those families, more PD. And then the needs assessment on efficiency of enrollment and identification process. So we are continually trying to figure out how do we get this information from families quicker and easier and better. It's been helpful having Susie Mills be a direct link between us and a lot of our ELL families, because sometimes whenever it comes to registration, some families have trouble with the registration process in answering those questions. So she becomes a really good, she facilitates a lot of conversations. And she actually will come in and help Emily run a lot of phone calls and things with families to get more information. So we just feel like we could always do better with the efficiency of finding families and providing services quicker. So those are some of the things that we feel like maybe are opportunities for growth. But honestly, I feel like just this program over the past 4 or 5 years, and especially having Emily really be here to kind of focus on that, we've done so much more and have had so many more conversations with our schools and families than ever over the past few years. So she's been like a lifesaver, because honestly, a family can come in and enroll at any minute, and we need to immediately enroll them. So it's difficult, if you don't have somebody there that can like fulfill those needs right away. So that's pretty much all we had. So did you guys have any questions?
This homeless program is so much larger than most of us really understand or appreciate, but and I can see communicating with families, knowing when their situation changes. But I worry, there are the unaccompanied youth, the older kids, who may not tell you that they've left home and they're living in a car or something like that. And you said that the one thing that, I just wrote this down, you said it was a requirement, though, that they had to provide an address.
Yes.
What about a kid who Is that why he wouldn't let you know that he or she, or, you know, I'm thinking of older kids who are kind
Honestly,
of on the street.
I think our kids are really good at talking to our counselors.
Yeah.
I think they really
Okay.
are. I think our counselors are fully aware. Our teachers are aware. Our teachers and staff really have
Yes.
good connections with kids. We usually, the only time we have trouble with a address is when you do have somebody that's couch surfing. And so we do just kind of like let them know that, you know, we understand where they may not have they may only be there for a week, but even if they move in a week, could you please let your you know, the office know what your new address will be?
Just a contact.
Yeah, or even if
okay.
you have 3 places you're couch surfing, could you give us all of those? Because that is the one requirement that they have to be able to give. And so sometimes we have trouble even getting that information because people are fearful about giving it, especially if they have a 1-bedroom apartment that may only be rented to 1 person or 2 people, knowing that they can't have more family members stay with them. I think there's a fear that we're going to turn them in, and that doesn't happen. We just need to know where they're, I mean, it really isn't that. So sometimes a lot of that is building trust and helping families understand that we are only asking because if there's an emergency at school, we need to be able to take them home, or we need to be able to contact
So
you.
the
or
connection with the counselors in the school.
Yeah.
And if there's a situation where a student is unsheltered, that would be an immediate, like, we would rally everyone and all of our partners to make sure that they were not
They would find them
unsheltered.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, core data is, I don't have probably the correct terms, but when we in our student information system and we turn like numbers and data into the state, that's core data. So whenever we have these students, for instance here, if they are homeless, then we mark them as homeless in our system. And then DESE pulls that number through what they call core data. Same with like special education numbers, you know, they'll pull those numbers. Like that's when they, I feel them, yeah. I feel like I picture them just like taking numbers out of our, you know, yeah. It's probably not the real answer, but.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, I have a motion.
I move to approve the homeless program evaluation review as presented.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. The homeless program.
Thanks, Emily.
Item 8.02, now we have the gifted review.
Just Nicole already.
They're up.
You're
She's
like,
like, let's go.
Let's
roll.
Let's do this. She said, yep. I'm talking, Dr. Seifert, I want to do this. All right.
Okay, it may not work. Nope, sure won't. It was green.
Someone's
go.
going.
That's him. It's not doing anything. Oh, you know what, you just go ahead and do that. Thank you. Appreciate it. So Nicole and I are presenting the gifted report, obviously. And Chris, you can go ahead and advance. Thank you. Or
Kind of
point.
muffled.
Thank you. And I know that's tiny, but just a brief overview. What we are doing with the elementary level is doing a 1-day pull-out program. One-day pull-out program per week, and it's 150 minutes of gifted instruction at the elementary level per week. And then also, the students at not only the elementary, but also the upper levels as well, are presented with real-world activities, things that are going to be able to, items that will allow them to explore their giftedness. And at the secondary level, we have students in the communication arts, that we have a communication arts program for the gifted students. We have gifted 1, English 1, gifted English 2. We also have gifted exploration and expansion. The entire gifted program, K through 12, pre-K through 12, is to ensure that students that are gifted
have the opportunity to explore their unique abilities, but also learn how to adapt with their unique abilities, because gifted students also have their own specific way of learning. In regards to aligning with district CSIP goals, obviously we have made sure that everything is in alignment and making sure that we are embedding certain things that curricularly for these students so that they have the best opportunity for growth. Chris, you can go ahead. Thank you. And then the program goals, there are to allow the students to learn to thoroughly research, to communicate, to problem solve, which is probably at this point in time in their lives one of the most important things to do, and then that it's effective for them. Because again, the one thing here is St. Charles gifted students will develop an understanding of the intricacies of being gifted as they acquire the knowledge and apply skills to make decisions and function as responsible citizens of a diverse global society. So that probably in a nutshell really relates what we are doing with our students with our gifted program, is ensuring that these students have the opportunity to learn the curriculum, like everybody else, but then also to be able to develop further those gifted qualities that they have so that they can then apply them in real-world experiences. Go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so part of our evaluation process is to look at several pieces of data. The first piece of data we looked at is the 2021 MAP Achievement Level Report. We also sent out surveys to our families, our students, and our staff. And we look at district demographic data and retention rate data to determine the effectiveness of the program. Go ahead, Chris. So some of the things I'd like to highlight are our MAP index scores. They indicate that our gifted students in St. Charles School District are outperforming gifted students across the state. Our scores were significantly higher in all areas of ELA, math, and science, with the exception of third grade math, which it was the same as gifted in the entire state. Our surveys indicated that the majority of our parents believe their child is being challenged to the level of their ability in our program, and parents believe that they're being challenged in the areas of problem solving, communication, and research, which are tied to the program goals. Our surveys indicate that the majority of students believe they are also being challenged to the level of their ability and also challenged in the areas of our program goals, problem solving, communication, and research. Research indicates that gifted facilitators provide experiences for, you can flip to the next one, Chris, for our students to develop strong levels of critical thinking and problem solving, and students are given opportunities to develop their individual strengths through a variety of learning styles and self-guided projects. So at the elementary level, I can speak to that. Everything is project-based. It's specifically designed to challenge these advanced learners to provide experiences that require critical thinking, problem solving, independent study skills, communication, and persistence in the face of challenges. A high percentage of our gifted high school students are also enrolled in advanced courses such as advanced math, advanced science, advanced history, and foreign language. Our retention rates for the gifted program are comparable year to year, and at the high school level, from 9th grade to 10th grade, it's exceptionally high at 97%. And our gifted program provides students with options that are compatible with their needs, abilities, and interests. They're highly encouraged to participate in advanced opportunities such as CAPS, PLTW, Lewis and Clark, and early college. One more. So this slide just shows you the 4 units of study that the elementary does. They do a botany unit of study, they study space, they study water, and they study forensics. So our gifted facilitators plan these around our DESE standards and create self-guided projects around them. The next slide shows some pictures from Jefferson, where the gifted program explores STEM challenges, they build rockets, they use the Spheros, so they're having a good time over there at Jefferson. One more time. So based on our data, some recommendations for opportunities of growth are the gifted facilitators are working within a revised schedule this year, which allows them to provide enrichment opportunities to our regular education students who may be identified as gifted, but they're not attending SOAR. It could be students who have missed the cutoff or other intelligent, creative, and/or curious children, and also students who come from a variety of backgrounds, including free and reduced lunch, minority, ELL, etc., who may just need a little more exposure or opportunity to blossom. The facilitators are working through this new process and are finding engaging ways to enrich these students. Another recommendation is that the gifted facilitators at the elementary level have time built in their schedules to provide collaboration, planning, and professional development with the regular education teachers, so they know how to support the needs of their gifted students in the regular education setting. Our teacher and administration survey results indicated that there was a communication barrier between gifted facilitators at the elementary level and those support. They weren't sure what was happening in SOAR. So one recommendation is that we need to strengthen that communication. The facilitators are sharing their newsletters now with everyone. They're building time in their schedules on Mondays and Fridays to go into classrooms and work with teachers so they know how to support their students. They are also increasing their collaboration and increased communication. So we know navigating through a pandemic is challenging. The facilitators are always exploring new ways to provide engaging and challenging virtual learning opportunities for their gifted students who are not attending SOAR in person. Our survey results indicated that both parents and students believe that the program does not challenge students to show grit. So one thing working with gifted and talented students is things typically come very easy to them. So when something is challenging, it's like, what is this? I don't want to do it. So we're working with them to build in activities with their students so they can show gritty. The analysis of the district data also shows that we need to revise our gifted referral process. If you guys took a look at our demographics data, I'm sure it was quite alarming to you. This is going to allow us to expand our net to include students who may have been overlooked in the initial screening process. It's a goal of our department to have a more diverse gifted program that mirrors the diversity of our district. This team has submitted a revised screening matrix to DESE for approval. So no longer will it be the entryway into the SOAR program as a teacher referral. Now it is based on data. Teacher referral will still be part of the process where the teacher is filling out a form, noticing if a student might show gifted and talented tendencies, but it's no longer based on that. So we're excited about that. At the secondary level, greater opportunities for students to explore their gifted abilities through arts and kinesthetics, in addition to core subject matter, would be beneficial to help students realize their full potential. And we will be working with our gifted teachers and facilitators in the next school year to revise the curriculum. They are already attending professional development, collecting ideas for best practices, and researching ways that we can improve our gifted curriculum. I think that was it on the slides. First grade. What questions do you have for us? How many did virtual? This year? I don't think there's any that are attending virtual. So we gave them the option if parents, if they are choosing to be virtual, parents can still bring them to SOAR and pick them up. And that's been a great opportunity for those kids that take advantage of it.
So this year they're all
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
And you had said it wasn't just based on teacher referrals, but on data. What data is that?
So we're looking at all different types of data. We use Galileo. We're looking at that. We're looking at MAP scores. We're looking at reading levels. There's an entire matrix. So this year we are planning on a universal screener at the K4 level. We know that the past 2 years we've missed some students, so we're trying to scoop up those. But so we've made the decision to do a universal screener for all K4. That will be our first go around. So it's an online assessment, takes about 30 minutes, and that will be the first step.
And that also is a nonverbal aptitude test. So it is a screener that's designed, even if your student is English language learner or doesn't have a lot of academic vocabulary happening at home, that this, a screener, that those biases should be weeded out of so that all kids have a equal opportunity to show their creativity and their giftedness.
Additionally, on Fridays, our gifted facilitators are pushing in and into classrooms, but they're providing enrichment during the week, so they are making note of students in their enrichment groups that this kid has signs, so we're going to make sure we're really paying attention to them.
Over the course of their education. It's not a one-shot, like, if you don't qualify by first grade, you're not.
Oh, for sure.
It's looked over the whole course.
For sure, multiple times. And we've had in the past too, students who have been referred multiple years, and sometimes they just need a little bit of time to mature. And maybe it's that third or fourth time that they're like, okay, now they're meeting the criteria.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. If you don't have any other questions, then we'd ask that you vote to approve the presentation as presented. Sorry, unless you have any other questions, we'd ask that you vote to approve the recommendation or the report as presented.
With us, and Lavinia, this was probably the bad straw to draw tonight. This is about as
Right,
this
I'm gonna
is-
have to get Charles.
Charles owes you. But thank you for being here. I don't mean to speak for Lavinia, but this will be an abbreviated report just because of, obviously, Charles kind of had some things to it, but take it away, Lavinia. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm not really sure what Charles goes over every month with you, but you have the reports in front of you, and just to go over a couple of the numbers here, our total revenue for the month is a little over 2.7 million, and then our total expenses are a little over 9.8 million. So that brings our ending fund balance to 23,449,000. Roughly, so. And then this just highlights the different funds for our financials. Of course, they're in 4 funds, so the information is there. Is there any questions? We don't have that at the moment, but I can have that for you at a later time.
We can get that presented for you.
So that was short and sweet. Charles should take lessons from you.
Yes. Yes. I agree. So I thought that about Jessica too. I'm like, she should present everything.
So shall we make a motion? Yeah, I move to approve.
I second.
Aye. Thank you.
Lavinia, thank you for being here and for all that you do. Very quickly, just want to remind you too, as I'm thinking about our new optional, if like in this building, since it's all adults, this will be an optional building too, just so you know. Obviously, it's not kids are here, so just, or maintenance, transportation. Yeah.
You guys aren't old enough.
Even in optional buildings, it will be unvaccinated people will be, obviously we'll have in our mask, or our signs that unvaccinated people will still be encouraged to mask up. So, okay. All right.
I move we adjourn. Aye.
Thank you all for staying with us tonight.